Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook. People in Marvel start to marry the Scarlet Witch. Chapter 31. Are you joking? Tony and Ethan were also taken aback when they heard Li Chuan's answer. They didn't bring anyone with them, and Li Chuan was alone. How could they be safely rescued from the terrorists who were armed to the teeth in the 50s and 60s? It's not as good as the one that the two of them put together before. The escape plan to create a humanoid armor, the design drawings of the armor are ready, and some parts have been completed. Maybe they can persist for more than a month. As long as they are not discovered, they can break out on their own. You don't need to worry about that. Just stay here and don't move. I will deal with those people outside. Seeing that everything was settled, Li Chuan performed the transformation technique again, turned into Obadiah's appearance, and then walked towards the big iron gate. Don't you need our help? Tony asked quickly. Li Xuantu waved his hands knowingly. As long as you stay here and don't distract me, it will be the greatest help. Tony. Pushing open the iron gate, Li Chuan smiled gently at the two guards guarding the gate. Okay, I've already negotiated on my side, take me to see Raza. A guard looked inside through the opening of the iron gate and found that Tony and Ethan were fine, so he nodded to the other guard, and the other guard immediately led Li Chuan to the monitoring room of the cave. It turned out that Raza went to the monitoring room as soon as he left, and wanted to check the situation inside through the monitoring, but just rushed to the monitoring room, and saw Obadiah smashing the monitoring room with a chair. Following the guard's turn and turn, Li Chuan soon saw Raza again. The content of this side mission is to kill Raza and destroy the base, and it does not say that all Raza's subordinates must be wiped out. So his first and foremost goal is to make sure to kill Leza first. Otherwise the fight will start soon, and this guy will run away when he sees the situation is not good, which will be troublesome. As for those subordinates, it is of course best to kill them all, and it is not a big problem if they cannot be killed and run away. Anyway, he is using Obadiah's appearance. The people from the Ten Rings gang later looked for Obadiah when they were looking for trouble, and it had nothing to do with Li Chuan. I've made the promise, now it's your turn. In the monitoring room, Leza sneered and put a computer in front of Li Chuan, asking him to transfer money. The reason why he was willing to bring Obadiah to the base, and he didn't get angry when he saw him smashing the surveillance system, was because he knew that since Obadiah came to his territory, he didn't have to worry about Obadiah breaking the deal up. Because Obadiah dared to violate the deal, he could blow Obadiah's head on the spot. But Li Chuan looked at the computer in front of him and smiled, stepped forward and stretched out his hands to grab Leza's head like lightning, and then twisted it hard. Click it. There was only a crisp sound, and Raza's head suddenly spun 360 degrees, making a full circle around his neck, so dead that he couldn't die anymore. This way, it's safe. After getting rid of Leza, Li Chuan glanced at the other two people in the monitoring room. The two people were obviously startled by the sudden scene, and they were stunned for a while before thinking of drawing their guns to deal with him. However, it was too late. With Li Chuan's current strength, even if the two of them had already drawn their guns and aimed, he could still avoid the shooting through prediction, not to mention the two of them had been in a daze for a long time. Before one of them touched the gun, Li Chuan lifted his leg and stepped on the wall, breaking his neck abruptly. As soon as the other one pulled out the gun, he flew out. It turned out that after Li Chuan stomped on the first person's neck, he turned around and whipped him out. As a warrior, Li Chuan's strength was already far superior to that of ordinary people, and with the blessing of chakra, the second person flew up and hit the wall before falling, vomiting blood and losing his breath. It seems that I didn't find it, which is easy. Because his actions were fast enough and his strikes were ruthless, there was no gunfire when he dealt with Raza and the two in the monitoring room, so the 10 commandments outside were not alarmed. After making seals with both hands, Li Chuan's appearance changed again, from Obadiah to Raza. Pushing the door and walking out of the monitoring room, he walked out of the cave along the rugged cave, and then waved to the 10 Rings gang who were standing in the valley, smoking and chatting, patrolling everywhere. Seeing this, the gang members immediately ran over with guns on their backs. Kava Daba Alagawa. A series of words that Li Chuan didn't understand came to his ears, but he ignored them, and just signaled with his eyes that all the gang members followed him into the cave. Although those gang members wondered why the boss didn't speak, but due to his usual majesty, they didn't dare to ask any more questions, and followed behind obediently. After reaching a relatively spacious area in the cave, Li Chuan turned around and looked around. This location is not bad, it is very suitable for your cemetery. As he said that, before these helpers could react, a sharp dagger appeared in his hand. The dagger is a weapon he obtained from previous missions. It has been placed in the mission space and can be taken out and used at any time. Chakra was all over his body, and Li Chuan flashed with a dagger in his hand. Blood spattered all of a sudden, and the members of the 10 Rings gang were like cut straws, clutching their necks and falling to the ground screaming. If these 30 or 40 gangs were scattered outside the valley and had cover to cover the shooting, then it would really not be easy for him to kill them without injury. Don't underestimate the power of modern firearms. Once you get hit, it's not a joke. But when they got together, and Li Chuan squeezed into the middle, it was naturally another ending. Therefore, in such a modern society, facing normal people, sometimes auxiliary ninjutsu may be more threatening than those offensive ninjutsu. After a massacre ended, Li Chuan released the transformation technique to restore his original appearance, turned around and walked towards the secret room where Tony and others lived at the bottom of the cave. I forgot, there is another gatekeeper. After walking a few steps, Li Chuan saw the gatekeeper who had been staying at the iron gate, walking towards this side with a gun in his face. Obviously heard the screams from outside, and ran out to check. Si Wei Shen Hai Noon Yin, Fire Escape, the Art of Fireball. Li Chuan quickly made seals with his hands, and when he spit out his mouth, a huge fireball flew towards the goalkeeper in front. The gatekeepers originally saw Li Chuan, a stranger, and wanted to raise their guns to shoot, but before they could aim, they saw a huge fireball flying towards them, and they ran away in fright. However, he, an ordinary person, couldn't escape the fireball's attack. He was directly hit on the back by the huge fireball and turned into a charred mummy. The power is good. Nodding in satisfaction, Li Chuan continued to walk towards the bottom of the cave. No, I always think it's too dangerous for him to be alone, maybe we should help him. In the secret room at the bottom of the cave, after pacing back and forth for a while, Tony vaguely heard screams from outside, so he took out an arm-like thing from under a hidden box in the corner. During this time, he and Ethan were ostensibly helping Raza make weapons, but in fact they were secretly making the Mark I humanoid armor with the materials they got from Raza. It's just that the time is too short, and an incomplete arm and several parts have just been made. And there is a small self-made rocket in this arm, which is not very powerful, but it shouldn't be a problem to blast open the iron door. You're right. The kind-hearted Dr. Ethan picked up an iron rod from the side and apparently agreed to go out and help. Tony held the mechanical arm with one hand, and pulled Dr. Ethan with the other. After retreating to a safe enough distance, he activated the switch on the arm and fired a small rocket about 30 centimeters long towards the iron gate. However, at this moment, the iron gate was opened from the outside, and a figure happened to walk in. It was Li Chuan, who had returned from killing all the 10 Commandments gang in the base. No, get out of the way. Seeing that it was Li Chuan who opened the door, Tony and Ethan were shocked, and hurriedly shouted at Li Chuan. And Li Chuan obviously noticed the rocket that was flying towards him, and while twitching the corners of his mouth, he cursed the 2 pig teammates secretly, while using seals to perform a substitute technique, and instantly changed places with a chair in the room. Boom! With a loud bang, the entire iron door was blown away by the small rocket. I said, Mr. Tony, I kindly ran such a long distance to save you, and you treat me like this. Li Chuan looked at Tony angrily. Seeing that Li Chuan dodged the rocket attack in a miraculous way, Tony breathed a sigh of relief, and then explained in a somewhat awkward tone. We just heard the news and wanted to go out to see if we could help you, but we didn't expect this to happen. Really, I'm sorry. Well, who told me that I have always been broad-minded? I have already dealt with the people outside, and you can leave. Li Chuan didn't care too much. He knew that Tony didn't mean it just now. He could only say that he almost did something bad with good intentions. It's all solved. Tony and Ethan couldn't help exclaiming at the same time. Li Chuan alone managed to deal with so many armed terrorists in such a short period of time, even the super agents in the movie couldn't do it. But after thinking about it for a while, they were a little relieved. After all, the other party might be the kind of superpower with special abilities. So, the two followed Li Chuan, left the secret room and walked outside along the winding cave. Soon, they saw the charred guard and dozens of corpses of the Ten Rings gang members with their necks smeared. To be honest, the moment they saw those corpses, the two of them also gasped. However, these terrorists killed countless people, and the crimes they committed could go to hell dozens of times. Death is not a pity, and the two of them did not sympathize. The reason why he was frightened was that Li Chuan really did all this alone without any injuries. The taste of freedom is really great. Chuan, thank you for saving us. When I go back, I will introduce you to some beautiful women, all of whom are from Hollywood. Coming outside the cave, feeling the long-lost sunshine, Tony's mood improved a lot in an instant, and his speech regained some of his former style. This time walking on the verge of death has brought about great changes in Tony's heart, especially under the influence of Dr. Ethan. He has a deeper understanding of what he has done and the meaning of life. However, his own traits of venomous tongue, fondness for joking, and liking for beautiful women have not changed much. No need, I'm married, not suitable for those, you just need to come back to New York and find me to fulfill the promise. Before Tony could finish speaking, Li Chuan interrupted him by raising his hand. Hearing Li Chuan's words, Tony's eyes widened in disbelief. You're married, you don't seem very old. I just turned 20 this year, and I've been married for almost 2 months. There was a rare look of happiness on Li Chuan's face. Seeing this, Tony shook his head secretly. Marriage is the grave of love. I didn't expect you to step into the grave at such a young age. It's so irrational. In his life, marriage does not exist. He only likes to have a relationship with different beauties for a night or two, and then he can say goodbye. So now that he is nearly 40 years old, he is still single. I don't agree with this statement, and I believe that Mr. Li Chuan will definitely not agree with it either. Ethan, who was on the side, retorted when he heard Tony's words. Li Chuan nodded with a smile. Certainly. Well, when I go back, I will definitely take the time to visit your two families to see if your marriage is as good as you said. Tony shrugged. Hearing Tony's words, Li Chuan replied directly. Sorry, you are not welcome in our family. To be honest, my wife hates you very much. Hate me? Tony blinked twice, showing an innocent look. You must know that although Tony Stark is a world-famous playboy, he is actually very popular among most women. My wife is from Sokovia. Her parents were killed by the missiles produced by your group 10 years ago, so if you come to my house, she will beat you out with a broom. Li Chuan looked at Tony and replied. Upon hearing Li Chuan's words, Tony was silent for a while, and he replied after a while. I'm sorry, this is indeed my fault. If I have the opportunity, I can apologize to your wife in person, even if she hits me with a broom. Okay, let's talk about it later, let's get out of here first. Li Chuan waved his hand. Tony is responsible for this kind of thing, but he can't really blame him entirely. It's like a blacksmith hit a knife, and someone killed someone with the knife. The responsibility cannot be attributed to the blacksmith. If it was true that Tony killed Wanda's parents, then Li Chuan would not have saved him at all, and would have killed him by himself. There are cars below, we can drive away. Ethan pointed to the dozen or so cars parked at the exit of the valley and said. No, there are always search and rescue military reconnaissance planes near this desert. As long as you make a big noise, you will be found quickly. Then someone will take you back safely. Li Chuan jumped down, moved some of the missiles, bombs and other explosives printed with Stark standards in the valley, and threw them into the cave. Then he took Tony and Ethan to climb to the place facing the cave above the valley. Art fire escape ho fireball. Li Chuan made seals with his hands, spit out a big fireball, and slammed it hard on the weapons piled up like a hill in front of the cave. A loud explosion sounded, and all the explosives were detonated one after another, and the flames shot up into the sky. After a while, the entire valley collapsed completely. His operation was not only to attract the attention of the military troops who searched and rescued Tony, but more importantly, to eliminate the traces of his activities. The task of killing Raza and destroying his base is completed, and the task reward has been distributed to the task space. After the explosion ended, Li Chuan also heard a pleasant mission notification sound. At this moment, the eyes of Tony and Ethan standing next to him were already wide open. I haven't seen the sun for too long. my eyes are a little dazzled, I saw him spit out a big fireball from his mouth. Actually, I saw it too. What they saw just now, they actually saw Li Chuan spit out a big fireball from his mouth. If it is said that Li Chuan's ability was still within the range that surprised them but was understandable, then the operation of spitting out a big fireball has completely piqued their cognition. Changing appearance. In fact, in Tony's understanding, as long as the science and technology of holographic images are used well, it is not impossible. So apart from being a little surprised at the beginning, he was not so surprised later on. He even thought that maybe Li Chuan was carrying a high-tech product like a hologram on his body. As for killing the terrorists in the entire base by one person, although it is scary, it is not unacceptable. It can only be said that the fighting ability is very strong. However, as soon as the mouth spit out, a fireball about the size of a person spewed out, which really couldn't be explained by science. Could it be that Li Chuan is a robot with a flamethrower installed in his mouth, and just now he used the gasoline in his stomach as fuel to blow out flames? Well, this is clearly not the correct answer. It is estimated that people from the search and rescue team will come over in a while. I hope you can keep it a secret for me, because I don't want to be entangled by people from S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra, they are very troublesome. Li Chuan looked at Tony and Ethan, the bosses with long mouths, with a helpless expression. Of course, we won't tell other people about you, but I know Hydra, they were not wiped out during World War II, what is S.H.I.E.L.D.? Tony nodded, and then asked with some doubts. The Hydra organization, it is estimated that any American will know it, because it is a big villain in the animations, movies and dramas about Captain America. It is also recorded in textbooks. Even when he was a child, he often heard his father Howard mention Captain America. The two used to be good friends and fought together. But everyone knows that this organization was wiped out by Captain America as early as World War II, and Captain America died because of it. As for S.H.I.E.L.D., he had never heard of it at all. You don't know about S.H.I.E.L.D., but that organization was founded by your father. Li Chuan deliberately showed a look of surprise. And Tony was obviously more surprised than him. My father. Okay, then let me briefly say that the full name of S.H.I.E.L.D. is the Homeland Strategic Defense Attack and Logistics Support Agency, which was founded by your father, Peggy Carter and Chester Phillips. At present, it has developed into a global organization, the purpose of which is to maintain the safety of the entire Earth, mainly to deal with some terrorist organizations that may endanger the safety of the Earth, people with superpowers and special abilities, and possible aliens, etc. Just like me, those who have some special abilities will probably be arrested and imprisoned immediately once they are discovered, and they will be monitored for life even if they will not do any bad things. Quote. Li Chuan briefly introduced the situation of S.H.I.E.L.D. Tony frowned. They are really domineering. Without violating the law, no one can control the freedom of others in this way. Having just been kidnapped and imprisoned for almost a month, Tony now hates this behavior of controlling other people's freedom the most. Actually, it's fine if this is the case, but as far as I know, the current S.H.I.E.L.D. is not that pure, because their interior has been infiltrated by Hydra agents. At least I know that the true identity of several senior agents is actually Hydra. The ridiculous thing is that their chief, the guy named Nick Fury, doesn't know it at all. So like me, once they find out, it is estimated that the final fate is to be secretly transferred by Hydra agents, and then dissected for human experiments. Quote. Li Chuan spread his hands. Hearing Li Chuan's words, Tony's face also became serious. Don't worry, Chuan, Ethan and I will not disclose your information to anyone who asks. Haha, you don't have to be so serious, it's good to know, if they really deal with me, then I'm not easy to mess with. Seeing this, Li Chuan showed a trace of coldness on his face, while Tony and Ethan nodded subconsciously. In fact, what he said just now was deliberately told to Tony. Those Hydra people in Garrett had troubled him before, but because it was not easy to completely turn against Hydra, he didn't have an attack, but it didn't mean that things could be left alone. He wanted to find Nick Fury to expose Hydra's identity, but why would Nick Fury believe him, a stranger, instead of passing on the position of director to his old boss and his own trained subordinates? Secondly, even if it can make Nick Fury suspicious, he will push himself to the cusp of the storm, killing 1,000 and self-defeating 800, which is not worthwhile. Later, He felt that he might be able to disclose things to Nick Fury anonymously without revealing his identity, such as sneaking into the SHIELD headquarters with a transformation technique, leaving a note and the like. But it is also difficult to convince Nick Fury that if Hydra finds out first and takes action against the only real agents of SHIELD, then SHIELD will GG ahead of time. The point is that for Lee Chuan, SHIELD is actually no better than Hydra, and letting them fight among themselves is what he is really happy to see. So he disclosed this information to Tony first, and then disclosed it to Nick Fury through Tony later, which would neither expose himself but also really make Nick Fury vigilant. Then let SHIELD and Hydra fight, and he will develop slowly by himself. Likewise, it's possible to win over Tony so that he's not entirely on SHIELD's side. In fact, in the original movie, Tony has always been wary of SHIELD, doesn't trust them very much, and is disgusted with many of their practices. The person who picked you up is here, I'm leaving first. Looking at the black spots looming in the sky in the distance, Lee Chuan knew that the search and rescue team had discovered the abnormality here and was rushing over to check. By the way, Chuan, how can I find you after I go back to New York and finish my business? Seeing Lee Chuan turn around to leave, Tony asked hurriedly. Lee Chuan turned his head and smiled. My company is called Lee's Group, and its address is also in Manhattan. Our most famous product, Dolly Wan, is also known as Little Red Medicine. You can find it by searching. By the way, Dr. Ethan, the door of our group is always open to you. Quote. After speaking, he quickly jumped down the collapsed valley, found a jeep reserved in advance, and quickly left the area. After Lee Chuan's figure completely disappeared, Tony murmured. It turns out that Xiaohongyao is produced by your company. It is really a good product. As a world-class top playboy, Hollywood female star, supermodel, female reporter, female scientist, as long as he is beautiful, he may have had a relationship with him for a night or two. So of course he is also the most important customer group for health products like DailyOne. 30 days a month, he may need to use Dolly pills for 20 days. It's not that he is incapable, but that he has used the ones that are good. If it's what you said, I'll consider going. Similarly, Ethan secretly replied in his heart. His family members have been killed by these terrorists, and he has no attachment to the world. Originally wanting to help Tony leave, he died with these enemies who killed his family. In the end, Lee Chuan appeared to avenge him. So if Lee Chuan's company is really a conscientious company and the medicines it produces can help human beings, especially ordinary people, then he is willing to work for Lee Chuan. Hi, here. Seeing the two helicopters getting closer, Tony couldn't help waving his hands and shouting loudly. After being imprisoned for so long, I can finally go home. Perhaps seeing Tony waving below, the speed of the two helicopters suddenly increased, and they quickly landed near Tony and Ethan. Tony's good friend Colonel Roddy jumped off the helicopter with a few soldiers. Seeing Tony, who was laughing and seemed not injured, his face also showed a relieved expression. Hey, is the jeep comfortable to ride in? Remember to take a car with me next time. It seems that there is no problem. In the distance, Lee Chuan, who was standing on the jeep, retracted the telescope to the mission space, and took out a compass to look at it. I should go home too. In the past 3 years, he has done a lot of side missions in Sokovia, and also harvested a lot of miscellaneous items. Although there are no very powerful weapons, there are still many cold weapons such as swords, guns, swords and halberds, as well as telescopes and compasses. The next morning, having returned to New York, Lee Chuan, who was sitting on the sofa at home, was sitting with Wanda, eating snacks while watching the news about Tony Stark's safe return that was being reported on TV. On TV, Tony Stark was wearing a suit, sitting on the ground holding a cheeseburger, and said slowly, I've always had a question to ask my father. What did he think about the production of arms, whether he ever contradicted and swayed me to see innocent people being killed by the weapons I created to protect them. I decided, shutting down Stark's weapons manufacturing department, effective immediately. At the same time, I want to apologize to the people of Sokovia. The weapons I made have caused you great harm, and I will set up a fund to assist those families who have been hurt by the war. Quote. After speaking, he got up and bowed deeply, and left under the siege of many reporters. Next, some experts and well-known figures expressed their opinions, most of which were bad-mouthing the Stark Group, which means that a group that started with arms has closed its arms business, which is simply digging its own grave. I hope he really thinks so, not hypocrisy. Wanda watched the news in silence for a while before speaking. To be honest, after hearing Tony's sincere apology and seeing his final bow, the last trace of resentment in Wanda's heart seemed to disappear. However, the premise is that this is not a show, but Tony Stark really reflects. I cook at noon, authentic Chinese food, are you interested in trying it? Li Chuan stroked Wanda's hair and said softly. From his point of view, he hopes that Wanda can forget her hatred and troubles and live a happier life. In the afternoon, Li Chuan returned to the new company because Tony Stark came to the door. I thought you wouldn't come to me until you rested for a few days. In the office, Li Chuan smiled as he looked at Tony, who was refreshed again after washing up. And Tony shrugged. I'm a person who keeps my promises, and you left in such a hurry that day that I didn't even have time to thank you in person. Here you are, here are the records and videos of Obadiah's deal with Raza to kidnap you. I just ordered someone to release Obadiah. You can handle the rest yourself. Li Chuan threw a USB flash drive to Tony, and Tony put it in his pocket without hesitation. Introduce someone, Miss Potts, please come in. Following Tony's shout, the office door was pushed open, and Pepper Potts, who had been waiting outside, came in wearing a professional secretary outfit. This is my most trusted secretary, Ms. Potts. Now I have entrusted her to take care of all the affairs of the company. I have already told her that she will fully cooperate with you unconditionally if there is any need for your company. Obadiah will definitely be sent to prison, and he will focus all his energy on perfecting the steel battle suit that has not yet been made in the cave. Therefore, he has decided to temporarily hand over the affairs of the group to his most trusted secretary, Pepper Potts. Hi, I'm Pepper Potts. Pepper smiled and stretched out his hand to Li Chuan, and Li Chuan shook it with a smile. Hello, Miss Potts, Li Chuan, you can also call me Chuan directly like Tony. After saying hello to Pepper, Li Chuan called out the door. Xiao Lu, go and call Jack. Yes, boss. A rough answer came from outside the door immediately. Is that your bodyguard? It looks very powerful. When Tony heard Xiao Lu's voice outside, he couldn't help but let out an admiration. And Li Chuan just smiled. No, he's my secretary. Secretary. Tony was stunned for a moment, looked at the graceful Pepper next to him, and then recalled the bald man with a fierce face who followed behind Li Chuan just now, and suddenly twitched. Then your secretary seems really safe. After chatting for a while, Jack, who is in charge of Li's group, came to the office with a face full of excitement and started to connect with Pepper about the company's business. Jack never expected that his boss has such a good relationship with the top Stark group, and he is really supernatural. It's almost time to go to the small world to practice again. At night, after seeing Wanda fall asleep, Li Chuan opened the panel and clicked the button to enter the small world again. This time the mission is completed, and he has obtained the Palm Immortal Art and an additional 2 months of small world time. At present, he has a total of 8 months to practice in Naruto world. If it goes well, his strength will improve a lot when he returns next time. After spinning around for a while, he opened his eyes again, and he returned to the prince's mansion in the Land of Fire. Jinai, come in. Your Highness, do you have any orders? Jinai returned to the room with some confusion. In her concept of time, she had just handed the Bingliong pill to His Royal Highness the Prince and walked out of the room, and was called back again before taking a few steps. Go and send people to buy more fish and come back. If you want to live, then follow me to the temple. Li Chuan thought for a while and said, what kind of fish do you want? Jinai blinked his eyes twice. She thought that Li Chuan wanted to buy fish to give to the monks of the Temple of Fire. Although the Temple of Fire was a temple, it did not prohibit wine and meat, and fish was also edible. Any breed is fine, preferably a slightly larger one with more tenacious vitality. Li Chuan waved his hand. He didn't buy fish to eat, but to use it to practice Palm Immortal technique. The reason why Palm Immortal Jutsu is called A-level difficulty ninjutsu was summarized by Li Chuan after reading the scrolls. One is that it requires extremely strong chakra control ability, otherwise it will not be able to play a healing role. The second requires a wealth of medical science, or more precisely, an understanding of human body composition, cells, meridians, and so on. So if you want to become a qualified medical ninja, you don't need too much chakra, and you don't need any fighting talent. The most important thing is the ability to control chakra and the ability to learn medical knowledge. This is why many powerful Junin, why don't they learn some medical ninjutsu, and only use bandages when they are injured? They simply don't have the time and effort to learn those complicated and extremely difficult medical knowledge. And there are many powerful ninjas with strong fighting wisdom and ninjutsu talent, but they are scumbags in normal learning, such as the protagonist Naruto. As a martial artist, Li Chuan actually learned a lot of Chinese medicine from his master in addition to practicing martial arts since he was a child. There is no separation between medicine and martial arts. If a person who practices martial arts does not learn some medicine, how can he save himself after being injured? In addition, he is often injured while fighting life and death abroad, so he has also studied some Western medicine. Therefore, he has no problem with the knowledge of human medicine. What needs to be paid attention to is the practice of finer chakra control. And for this, it is most appropriate to learn Tsunade's method and use fish to exercise. Li Chuan practiced the fine control of chakra not only to learn palm fairy art, but it can play a great role in fighting. Finer control of chakra can better control ninjutsu, reduce unnecessary waste of chakra when performing ninjutsu, and enhance the power of ninjutsu. As a novice who has just refined chakra for 5 months, the amount of chakra in Li Chuan's body is similar to that of normal ninjutsu. If he wants to perform ninjutsu a few more times, he must learn to control chakra more finely. After staying in the prince's mansion for most of the day, Li Chuan returned to the Temple of Fire with a large number of live fish in the afternoon. Chuan, why do you buy so many fish? Di Lu looked at the buckets of live fish carried into the temple by Li Chuan's men, and also showed doubts. Obviously, his inner thoughts were the same as Ji Nai before, thinking that Li Chuan bought fish for the monks in the temple to eat. Therefore, Li Chuan expressed his idea of using fish to practice the fine control of chakra and his desire to learn medical ninjutsu. There is such a clever way. Lu secretly admired, and then said, "Wait a minute, I'll find you some scrolls." As a temple, although the Temple of Fire does not have a complete system of medical ninjutsu materials like Konoha, nor does it have so many powerful medical ninjutsu, but it still knows some common healing ninjutsu. The main reason is that chakra, the talent of the fairy race, has a certain bonus in healing. The ninja monks of the Temple of Fire sometimes treat some minor diseases for people who come to worship Buddha. When Di Lu returned again, he already had a few more scrolls in his hand, which recorded the medical ninjutsu of the Temple of Fire and related knowledge theories. "I'm not good at healing ninjutsu, you can only rely on yourself." After handing over the scroll to Li Chuan, Di Lu patted him on the shoulder and encouraged him. After Li Chuan got the scroll, he combined with the Palm Fairy Art learning scroll in the mission space, and entered the crazy learning and training mode again. Fire Temple's healing ninjutsu is very rough, at most D level, and the knowledge theory is also very messy and unsystematic. But it played a very important role as a bridge for Li Chuan to learn Palm Fairy Art. Different worlds have different perceptions of the human body. The knowledge of Chinese and Western medicine in Li Chuan's mind is transformed into this world, and there must be many differences in terms of words and expressions. Moreover, when it comes to the magical energy of chakra, many new things have evolved. It would be very difficult for Li Chuan to understand these by himself, but it would be much better with some knowledge and theories of the Temple of Fire as a transition. So as time went by, with his hard work, he finally began to slowly master the Palm Immortal technique, a healing technique with A-level difficulty. Of course, in addition to the practice of Palm Fairy Art and chakra control, Li Chuan has not left behind in other aspects of practice, such as the study of cultural theory taught by Di Lu, the combat fusion training of ninjutsu and body art, etc. In this world, there are no high-tech products such as surveillance and satellite positioning. Find an open space near a temple, and you can practice ninjutsu casually. If there is anything you don't understand, you can go to Di Lu for advice. Time flies, and 5 months have passed. In the woods outside the Temple of Fire, Li Chuan formed a seal with both hands. Wind Escape Flower Dance. A whirlwind was generated out of thin air centered on himself, driving the surrounding leaves to quickly rotate around his body. After a few seconds, the whirlwind disappeared and the leaves also fell. Using the rotation of the leaves to do damage is not very powerful, but it can disturb the enemy's sight, and take the opportunity to use physical skills at close range. It's okay. A long time ago, Li Chuan asked Jinai to take people to the underground gold exchange to offer a lot of rewards for ninjutsu, and now he has gained a lot one after another. The D-level wind escape ninjutsu just now is one of them. It's just that the ninjutsu that can be bought with money is basically some popular ninjutsu with little power. The highest is D-level, and up to now, I have never bought a C-level ninjutsu. Brother, Li Chuan, who was about to experiment with the next ninjutsu, suddenly heard a familiar voice not far away, and immediately stopped making seals, and disappeared in place after a few jumps. Empty, what's wrong? Li Chuan jumped off the tall tree trunk and landed right in front of the shouting Kong. Seeing Li Chuan appearing, Kong replied nervously. Brother, Sister Jinai came to the temple and said she was looking for you urgently. Okay, I see, thank you for making a special trip, next time I will ask Jinai to bring you some snacks. Li Chuan touched Kong's head with his body, smiled gently, then jumped a few times, and ran towards the Temple of Fire. Kong, on the other hand, stood on the spot, watching Li Chuan's leaving figure, with a trace of admiration in his eyes. Senior brother Chuan is the only one in the entire temple who doesn't look at him with disgust except Master Lu. And the strength is strong. Just less than a year after learning ninjutsu, there is no senior brother who can defeat senior brother Chuan in daily sparring. Jinai, why are you looking for me in such a hurry? In the backyard of the Huaji temple, Li Chuan, who hurried back, saw Jinai who was standing there waiting. Jinai saluted respectfully first, and then replied. Your Highness, Mrs. Jirjime's cat, Xiaohu, has been lost, and now she is about to go to Konoha to issue a mission to find it. There was also a quest to offer a bounty to Dasna of the Land of Waves on the Gold Exchange, and someone has already accepted it. Quote. Then let's start to act according to the plan. Li Chuan's eyes lit up when he heard the news. Mrs. Shijime is the wife of the daimyo, that is, his aunt. Her cat Xiaohu was lost. Combined with the tasks that appeared in the Gold Exchange, it can be roughly judged that the 7th Squad led by Kakashi on the Konoha side is about to execute the mission of the Kingdom of Waves. The Kingdom of Waves is an island country with a small area, almost zero domestic ninjas, a poor economy, and poor people's lives. At this time, it is being controlled by the evil shipping businessman Kado. Because of Li Chuan's huge sum of money to buy ninjutsu, his rich family fortune began to weaken day by day. Although he established a caravan, it still couldn't reach the point where he was satisfied. And in his future plans, money is indispensable. Although the Kingdom of Waves is a small country, it is a country after all. If it is handled properly, allowing his caravans to station there will definitely reap a lot of benefits. Controlling the economic lifeline of a country is actually not much different from controlling a country. Taking this opportunity, you can also increase a lot of experience in fighting with masters, killing two birds with one stone. After Jinai left according to his instructions, Li Chuan also came to Di Lu. Master, I want to go out and travel for a while to gain some experience. Traveling, with your strength, you can go traveling. Hearing Li Chuan's proposal of traveling abroad, Di Lu was taken aback for a moment, then nodded in agreement. He knew that if he wanted to become a truly powerful ninja, it would be impossible to just stay in the Temple of Fire and practice hard. The Temple of Fire has no mission system, and traveling is a good way to increase experience. In Lulu's eyes, Li Chuan's current chakra has barely reached the standard of the general Chunin, but because of his 5-attribute chakra ninjutsu combined with excellent physical skills, his strength is definitely top-notch among the Chunin. So if you go out to travel, as long as you don't encounter Jonin-level strength, your safety is still guaranteed. The key point is that Li Chuan's identity is the Prince of the Fire Kingdom. If there is any danger, as long as he reveals his identity openly, he will be protected. Now is the age of peace. Li Chuan's honorable status as the Prince of the Country of Fire is a protective umbrella, and it will be very troublesome if something happens in anyone's territory. The Land of Fire is located in the middle of the 5 major countries, in the most fertile hilly area with many trees. Because of its geographical advantage, the economy is also the most developed among the 5 major countries. Konoha village is located below the capital of the Kingdom of Fire, and the distance is not too far, so that the ninjas in the village can provide support at any time if there is an emergency in the Kingdom of Fire. The Wave Country is located in the east of Konoha Ninja Village. Li Chuan did not go to Konoha, but after being approved by Dalu to go out for a trip, he changed into a standard monk robe of Huaji Temple, wore a bamboo hat, and took the Zen staff that Jin Naihua made in the capital with a lot of money, and went straight to Boji direction of the country. Also setting off at the same time was the caravan formed by his subordinates. Because he knew that Mrs. Ji Jame would go to Konoha to issue a mission, and it would definitely take a few days for Kakashiban to arrive in the Land of Waves, so Li Chuan was also in a hurry along the way. Stop and go along the way to experience the scenery of different towns in the Land of Fire. The Land of Fire has a huge geographical area. Apart from the capital and Hidden Leaf Village, there are also a large number of towns and villages. The development of technology in this world is really strange. On the third day after leaving the capital of the Land of Fire, in a town not far from the border, Li Chuan sat at a roadside stall eating snacks, side while looking at the neon lights diagonally opposite. You can say that this is a world with backward technology. You can see neon lights of various colors on the street, as well as coin-operated electronic slot machines, and even advanced items similar to computers. If you want to say that it is developed, the housing construction and people's life here are more like staying in ancient times. It's pretty fascinating anyway. Don't run, stop for me, and pay back the money. While he was eating snacks and watching the shadow puppet ninja war performed on the street, a commotion on the street corner caught his attention. He jumped to the roof and took out the telescope from the mission space, and soon he figured out what was going on. It turned out that there were two women who owed their debts and were being chased by a large group of people with sticks. The debt is not exchanged, is it? Li Chuan, who didn't intend to care about it at first, suddenly thought of something and raised his binoculars to look again. The two women looked very young. One had long blonde hair, a purple diamond mark between her eyebrows, and a very exaggerated good figure. The other has short black hair and is holding a very cute pink piggy. Judging by his appearance, he really is Tsunade. Tsunade, one of the legendary Sannin, the strongest medical ninja, the granddaughter of the first Senju Hashirama, the princess of the Senju clan, and the future 5th Hokage. He likes to gamble, and his gambling luck is extremely bad. He almost loses every bet. He has the nickname, Big Fat Sheep, in the casino. Because of the death of his lover and younger brother in the war, he was psychologically traumatized, so he gave up his ninja identity and left Konoha. Recalling the information about Tsunade in his memory, Li Chuan thought for a while, then put away his binoculars, jumped to the ground and ran towards the place that caused the riot. The future 5th generation Hokage, since I met it, I must get in touch with it. If we can establish a good relationship in advance, Tsunade will be invited back to be Hokage soon, maybe he can also get some benefits from this. According to Jinai's message from Flying Eagle in the morning, Mrs. Jirjime returned to the capital with her little tiger, so Kakashiban should have just set off from Konoha, with a little delay. Master Tsunade, why don't we pay back the money? Shizune hugged the little pig, looked back at the debt collectors who wanted to swallow them alive, and suggested to Tsunade next to him helplessly while running wildly. However, Tsunade obviously did not intend to accept her proposal, and tightly held the box in his hand. No, this is my last property. We will pay them back when we win the money in another town. Jing Yin covered her forehead and didn't try to persuade her anymore, because she knew she couldn't persuade her. Master Tsunade, go there are many people there, it is easy to get rid of them. Although both of them are powerful ninjas, in order to prevent debt collectors from knowing their true identities, they will go to Konoha to collect debts, so they rarely expose their ninja identities in front of debt collectors. Being chased by a large group of people like now, it is best to run to a crowded place, while the debt collectors can't see them, and then quietly use the transformation technique to escape. However, just as the two were about to rush into the crowd in the snack street, a monk wearing a bamboo hat suddenly raised his Zen stick in his hand and blocked their way. Hey, in broad daylight, you so many big men actually bully two little girls, how can the poor monk stand by and watch? Tsunade and Shizune couldn't show a physique that was too much beyond normal people, so they had no choice but to stop their escape. And those debt collectors naturally stopped after seeing this. Where did the monks come from? They meddle in their own business. They are the ones who owe their debts and don't pay them back. We just recover our due debts. Even if people from the government come, it's only right and proper. The leading debt collector held up the big stick in his hand and said angrily. And Li Chuan put down the Zen stick in his hand and performed a Buddha ceremony. Indeed, it's only natural to pay back debts, but you can't use such violent means to collect debts. How about this? How much the two girls owe you? I can advance them for them first. You are serious. When these debt collectors heard that the monk in front of them was willing to help repay the money, their expressions immediately changed from anger to joy. It doesn't matter who pays back the money, as long as they can get the money, their task is completed, and they can go back to their respective bosses. Tsunade and Shizune, who were about to take advantage of Li Chuan talking to the debt collector, were about to run away furtively. When they heard that the monk in front of them wanted to help them pay off their debts, their eyes lit up and they stopped. There are still such stupid, good people in this world. Master Tsunade, you owe so much, he may not have so much money to pay back. Don't worry, take a look first, and run without us. Although the two did not speak, they made eye contact and had already decided on the next action plan. In general, it is 4 words, play by ear. Really, the little monk's family is fairly well off, and he has some spare money. Li Chuan performed the Buddhist ritual again, and then replied seriously. She owes me $1 million. She owes me $500,000. She owes me $3 million. Hearing Li Chuan's words, the creditors took out their IOUs one after another, and after a rough calculation, all of Tsunade's gambling debts added up to 30 million taels. Even if Li Chuan had been prepared in his heart, he couldn't help but twitch the corners of his mouth. You must know that the rewards for A-level missions in normal ninja villages are only between 150,000 and 1 million taels, and the whole team members divide them. 30 million taels, how many A-level tasks must be done to get so much reward? Seeing that Li Chuan seemed to be hesitating here, Tsunade stuffed the box to Jingyan, and rushed to Li Chuan's side with a swoosh, pretending to be pitiful and saying, My lord, my little girl owed so much money because she was young and ignorant. You are kind enough to help me pay it back first, and I will write you an IOU, and I will return it to you as soon as I have money. Quote. From Tsunade's point of view, the money owed to dozens of casinos is being collected everywhere every day, so it is naturally not as good as the money owed to the little monk in front of him. The key point is that the little monk is the kind of person with a good temper at first glance. Even if she is late, she will be fine, and who is Tsunade, she will definitely come back next time, and will naturally return all the money to the little monk when she wins. You are already 50 years old, and you are still young and ignorant. You are worthy of it. Suppressing the complaints in his heart, Li Chuan pretended to be embarrassed, and finally sighed. Well, anyway, I'm traveling now, and I don't really need money, so I'll lend you to pay off the debt first. But girl, remember that 9 out of 10 bets lose, and I don't want to gamble again in the future. Remember, definitely remember. Tsunade skillfully took out the pen and paper, quickly wrote an IOU of 30 million taels, stuffed it into Li Chuan's arms, and then quickly disappeared into the street with Jingyan. Li Chuan was stunned for a moment when he saw this, then turned his head and smiled at the group of debt collectors. Then everyone, follow me to the bank to withdraw money. From today onwards, Li Chuan may be Tsunade's biggest creditor. The 5th Hokage owes the Prince of the Fire Country 30 million taels. In the future, as long as he doesn't raise some excessive conditions, I believe Tsunade will forgive him for the sake of the IOU. Things like money have value only when they are spent in useful places, otherwise they are just a pile of waste paper. After taking those debt collectors to the bank to collect the money, he didn't stay in this town any longer, and headed towards the country of waves as planned. In the evening, Li Chuan looked at the sea covered in thick fog, as well as the faintly visible small island in front of him and the half-built bridge, and murmured to himself. Just wait here. According to the distance from Muyayin village to here, they should not arrive until tomorrow. After thinking about it for a while, he walked to the shore and quickly made seals with both hands. Thunder tunnel, earth walk. A strong lightning force spread along the surface of the sea along his palm, and soon 4 or 5 sea fish surfaced with suffused bellies. He took out a long spear from the mission space, skewered some sea fish, and Li Chuan began to prepare for today's dinner. Although most of the items in the mission space are worthless things, they are not like ordinary items that cannot be carried when traveling through the world. Even if he came to Naruto World, the items he got from doing side missions in Sokovia before could be used at any time from the mission space. So even if he is sleeping in the wild now, he can take out a series of daily necessities such as tents, pillows, lighters, pots, bowls, ladles, and basins at any time. In fact, it cannot be said that they are all worthless, but they are not worth much in a modern society like Marvel. If one day enters a world with very backward technology, then maybe a random modern daily item in the mission space can be sold as a treasure for a high price. Moreover, the role of the task space is not limited to that. If it is used well, it will also be of great help to the battle. The next day, 10 o'clock in the morning. Standing on the coastline, Li Chuan looked at the few people walking out of the forest path, with a smile gradually appearing on his face. Finally come. The half-masked one with white hair and a slanted forehead band covering one eye is the elite Jonin Kakashi. The old man in front of him should be Dazna, the bridge builder of the Land of Waves. Surrounding Dazna, 3 11 or 12-year-old children with black hair, yellow hair, and pink hair in a standard ninja guard line were obviously Sasuke, Naruto, and Sakura. Who, let me, Naruto-sama, deal with you this time. Seeing Li Chuan standing there, Naruto, who was walking in the front, immediately took out his kunai and put on a fighting posture, as did Sasuke and Sakura. Not long ago, they were attacked by 2 wandering ninjas. Don't be so nervous, it shouldn't be an enemy. Kakashi quickly glanced at Li Chuan, grabbed Naruto from behind who was about to rush forward, and carried him back. He didn't sense hostility from Li Chuan, and he also recognized the logo on Li Chuan's waist, which was exclusive to the ninja monk of the Temple of Fire. Are you the ninjas of Konoha village? Li Chuan took a few steps forward, looked at Naruto's forehead, and pretended to be a little surprised. Yes, we are on a mission. Are you a ninja monk from the Temple of Fire? Kakashi narrowed his dead fish eyes slightly. Although the other party has the logo of the Temple of Fire on his body, he still needs to confirm it. The little monk is indeed from the Temple of Fire, and he is traveling now. He passed by here and wanted to visit the Land of Waves, but found that there is no boat on the shore that can take the little monk there. Do you know what's going on? Li Chuan nodded helplessly. Where is the Temple of Fire? Naruto next to him looked confused, obviously never heard of it. And Sakura next to him pointed at his head. These are written in the books when I was in school. The Temple of Fire is the only ninja temple in our country of fire. There are many monks who practice ninjutsu in it, and they are also allies of Konoha. Konoha's education system is perfect, not only teaching basic ninjutsu and taijutsu, but Naruto, a scumbag, sleeps during cultural classes, so naturally he doesn't know anything. The maritime traffic of the Land of Waves has long been controlled by Kado. Without his permission, no one can enter or leave the Land of Waves. At this moment, Dazna took a step forward and explained. Kado, the owner of the shipping company, a world-renowned rich man. Kakashi on the side showed a surprised look on his face. Dazna nodded and sighed slightly. Now that I've come here, I'll tell you the truth. Didn't you always want to ask me why I was attacked by wandering ninjas? Who sent me to attack me? I'll tell you right now, it's this Kado, because. Dazna then told the whole thing. It turns out that Kado controls the shipping of the Kingdom of Waves by violent means, and indirectly controls the politics, wealth and people of the Kingdom of Waves. In order to save the people of the Kingdom of Waves, Dazna wants to build a bridge across the sea, so that the people of the Kingdom of Waves can completely break away from Kado's control and gain freedom. It's a pity that halfway through the bridge repair, he was threatened by Kado, and he had to go to Konoha to hire ninjas to protect him and continue to build the bridge. But because he really didn't have much money, he could only lie about the mission information and lower the mission level. If you cancel the mission now, I will definitely be killed before I get home. But it's nothing, understandable, it's not your fault. It is my 8-year-old granddaughter who will cry all day long, and my daughter will always hate Konoha's ninja, and then live alone. Little monk, are you right? Quote, after Dazna finished his performance, he specially clicked on Li Chuan, who seemed very kind at first glance. Li Chuan also lived up to his expectations, and nodded angrily. There are such vicious people in this world. Mr. Dasna, don't worry, even if the ninjas of Konoha are unwilling to take action because of the reward, even though the little monk is not strong, he is willing to protect your safety with his life until the bridge is built. Quote. Li Chuan's intention was the same as Dasner's, so he naturally wanted to speak for him. Kakashi and Naruto looked at each other, not knowing how to answer for a moment. At this time, they have to follow the normal procedure and cancel the mission with Dasner's false report of the mission information. It feels like they have done something heinous and bad, and they are full of guilt. Dasna didn't expect Li Chuan to be so kind, first thanked Li Chuan sincerely, and then looked at Kakashi. The meaning is obvious, you look at others, then look at you. Kakashi stretched out his hand and scratched his head, and finally looked at the Naruto trio who were full of expectations, and nodded helplessly. Okay, then we will continue to protect you. It's not that he can't see Dasna's carefulness, but he just wants to use this to train his subordinates. Besides, most of Kado's subordinates are wandering ninjas, and he doesn't pay attention to them. As for the young monk who just came out of the Temple of Fire to travel, in his eyes, he was a kind and scheming young monk, who was deceived by the acting skills of the old fox Dasna. But to be honest, he also admired Dasna's risky behavior to repair the bridge in his heart, otherwise he would not have agreed so easily. That's really grateful. I will ask my daughter to make more delicious food for you when I go back at noon. Hearing Kakashi agree, Dasna finally relaxed. Although the little monk is kind, his strength is definitely not as strong as the famous Konoha ninja. If Konoha ninja gives up the mission, he will have to wait to die. Wait a moment. Dasna took out a small whistle from his pocket, stood on the shore and blew it vigorously, and a very strange sound spread far away. About 10 minutes later, a young man drove a boat, carefully passed through the thick fog, and appeared on the coast. Mr. Dishonor, get on the boat quickly, and go back before the fog clears, otherwise you will be in trouble if Kaduo's people find out. So, Li Chuan got on the boat with Kakashi and others. During the crossing, the four of Kakashi and Li Chuan were also on the boat, introduced each other's names, and chatted briefly. Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura were just chatting, but Kakashi was chatting, constantly testing Li Chuan, as if to further verify his identity. In fact, it is not a wise decision to suddenly join strange ninjas when performing such tasks like now. But Li Chuan's identity is a ninja monk of the Temple of Fire, and he planned to travel to the Kingdom of Waves, and he still had good intentions to help, so he couldn't refuse. As for Kakashi's temptation, how could Li Chuan not be aware of it, but his identity is fine, so he is not afraid of Kakashi's temptation. Mr. Dishonor, we'll be here soon, and it seems that Kado hasn't noticed. The young man rowing looked at the bridge hole in front of him, and heaved a sigh of relief. You know, without Kaduo's permission, he left the island and went to sea without permission, especially if he was picked up by Dasna who was repairing the bridge. If he is discovered, he probably won't be able to see the sun tomorrow. It's really hard work for you. Dasna raised his hat, his expression became serious. Li Chuan, who heard the conversation between the two, had a flash of light in his eyes. Because he knew that he was about to face two ninjas of the ninja level, Oninozan and Shiro, who possessed the blood succession limit. What kind of strength is Jonin? He can see a thing or two from the daily training with Jalu. That's why he wanted to come to the Kingdom of Waves with Kakashi and the others. Without the help of Kakashi's power, he can't deal with Bujin and Shiro alone. After passing through the bridge hole, the fog cleared, and a very beautiful island gradually appeared in front of everyone. The only fly in the ointment is that the houses on the island look dilapidated, and most of the residents on the shore have numb expressions and very thin bodies. The place where I live is still some distance from here, everyone follow me. After landing, Dasna led the group through the small town at the pier, and walked towards the interior of the island along a dirt road shrouded in dense forest. We can't let Sasuke show off anymore. Naruto, who was walking in front of Li Chuan, looked at Sasuke with his hands in his pockets, and immediately ran to the front and began to look around pretendingly, and even threw out a few kunai from time to time. He was anxious to show his posture, but how could he deceive everyone? Xiaoying immediately cursed angrily. However, at this moment, Li Chuan was secretly vigilant. Because of the keen perception cultivated as a warrior, he was faintly aware of a murderous gaze that had just swept past him. However, he couldn't determine the exact location of that line of sight. There, at this moment, Li Chuan noticed something strange because Naruto was throwing and bumping Kuumi, and then pushed aside the dense bushes on the side of the road, and carefully went forward to check. Naruto Kunai was right in the middle of the root of a big tree, and a little white rabbit under the root was trembling with fright. Did you dodge it with a substitute? Li Chuan secretly put all his energy into paying attention to the movement around him, but on the surface he pulled out kunai and threw it to Naruto, picked up the shivering little rabbit and walked out with a smile. When Kakashi standing over there saw the rabbit in Li Chuan's hand, his eyes froze. Because of his rich experience, he has already seen that this is not an ordinary rabbit, but a rabbit specially raised by ninjas to confuse the enemy and use substitute techniques. Over there, Sakura sees a cute rabbit that Naruto nearly killed, and growls at it again. What a cute little bunny. Li Chuan walked back to Dazna, deliberately raised the little rabbit in his hand, and then said, "You say the bunny is so cute, do you braise it in braised sauce or steam it?" Zabuza, who just used the prepared rabbit as a substitute, squatted on a big tree with lush branches and poked out his head secretly. The monk who was observing the monk below who was not within the scope of information was suddenly flashed by Li Chuan's contrasting words, and a flaw was revealed in the original perfect concealment. And it was this little flaw that made Li Chuan and Kakashi, who was also suspicious, discover his traces. If it's exposed, then go straight to it. Knowing that his aura was disturbed just now, it is very likely that Kakashi, the famous Konoha copy ninja below, has noticed it. No longer beheading and no longer hiding, he drew the beheading knife behind his back and swung it at the target Dazna forcefully. Everyone get down. At a glance, he saw that big exaggerated beheading knife flying towards them like a meat grinder, and the attack range actually included all of them. Kakashi immediately made the most effort-saving and safest way to deal with it. If you block the beheading sword for everyone, you may be attacked by a ninja hiding in the dark. If you don't make a move, with the speed and strength of the sword, Naruto and others can't stop it at all. And as long as everyone gets down on the ground, they can perfectly dodge the attack of the big sword, and they can also be alert to the sneak attacking ninjas to fight back at any time. Regarding Kakashi's impromptu solution, Li Chuan also sighed secretly, as expected of an elite jonin who has gone through countless missions and battles. However, he didn't lie down like Sasuke and the others, but stared at him, held his breath and focused, at the moment when the beheading sword was about to strike in front of him. Leaning back, he raised the Zen stick in his hand like lightning, and inserted it precisely into the round hole in front of the beheading sword. Then, relying on the strength of the waist and horse as stable as Mount Tai, he forcibly stopped the castration of the beheading sword, and pulled it back abruptly. With Kakashi watching, he wasn't afraid that Bujin would take the opportunity to sneak attack, so he could take the opportunity to detain the weapon that Bujin would take first. What? Seeing that Li Chuan was able to stop the big sword with the Zen stick in his hand, Kakashi over there couldn't help being a little surprised. You know, with the speed and power of the big knife just now, if you want to stop it like Li Chuan did, especially in order to prevent the bounce from flying, it is precisely inserted into the round hole in the knife. There are extremely strong requirements for strength, speed and eyesight. This young monk from the Temple of Fire, at least in terms of physical skills, must have a lot of attainments. That's right, Hanodera was originally famous for his physical skills, and its current presiding officer, Ji Lu, was the same as Asma in the village. He used to be the guard of the daimyo. As his apprentice Chuan, it is understandable to have such strength. On the other side, Zaibi Yuzan just threw the beheading sword in his hand, and immediately jumped towards the big tree where the sword fell. Konoha's replica ninja, Kakashi, has a great reputation, so he can't be easily knocked down by his knife swing. There is a high probability that he will let everyone lie down and dodge while secretly guarding. So this attack is just a small temptation, and by the way, there is a sufficiently imposing appearance. Ninja battles test all aspects, such as ninjutsu, taijutsu, illusion, combat strategy, chakra level, and psychological games. Especially for the masters who are evenly matched, the victory or defeat of the battle may be changed only because of a small factor. Bujin made an appearance with enough momentum, not to pretend to be 13, but to suppress the opponent psychologically and imposingly, so as to create an advantage for the next battle. However, when he used the instant body technique to appear at the position where his beheading sword should have appeared, he found that there was nothing there, and there was nothing there. Where is my knife? Where is my big knife? Landing on the branch of a big tree, he didn't cut it with a blank face, feeling that he fell to the ground in an instant. The beheading sword, one of Kurigaku's 7 strongest ninja swords, is powerful, extremely sharp, and has the special ability to heal itself after absorbing blood. Without the weapons you are good at, it should be easier to fight in a while. Li Chuan took the beheading knife from the Zen staff, then took out a sealing scroll, and sealed the beheading knife into the scroll very quickly. The sealing scroll, a very expensive ninja tool, is similar to the function of a space bag. You can seal some items in the scroll through chakra and take it out at any time. Although he has a mission space, the mission space can only store props obtained by doing side missions, and cannot be used under normal circumstances. So before he set off to travel, he asked Jinai to buy him a sealing scroll in advance and put it on his body. Now it is just used to seal the beheading sword inside, so as to prevent it from being taken away again later. Although he is not interested in the beheading sword, because this strange weapon is difficult to use without years of practice. But if you don't let Zabuza get it, you can reduce some of Zabuza's strength. The key point is that apart from the fact that it can be automatically restored when it is broken, the beheading sword has no outstanding characteristics compared to the other 6 ninja swords of Kurigaku. Turning around again without chopping, seeing his beheading sword sealed in the scroll by Li Chuan, the bandage on his face was about to fall off in anger. I planned to do a psychological warfare to find out, but I didn't expect to be taught a lesson by that unknown monk over there. Hey, isn't this Kurigaku's fugitive ninja? Momochi won't cut it again. Seeing that Li Chuan actually sealed Zabuza's beheading sword, Kakashi silently gave a thumbs up, and then went to the tree where Zabuza was, and started his psychological warfare. Zabuza, who is known as a ghost, was forced to become a rebel because he failed to assassinate Mizukage with his subordinates. While escaping from being chased and killed, he raised funds, trying to return to the village again to overthrow the bloody rule of Kurigaku. Such a famous ninja, even Kakashi must be cautious. Hey, the ninja who can copy more than 1,000 kinds of ninjutsu, the copy ninja Kakashi, it's an honor to meet you here. However, I advise you to take your subordinates and leave quickly. Don't stop me from killing that old man, otherwise your ninja path may come to an end today. Quote. The sword is gone, but you can't lose your momentum. If you don't cut your hands and fold your chest, you look down at Kakashi and everyone with a domineering look. Naruto wanted to step forward to show himself, but Kakashi stopped him directly behind him. This is not a ninja you can fight against, go and protect Mr. Dazna. After finishing speaking, he lifted his forehead protector, revealing the 3-gold jade writing sharing eye that had been covered all the time. This is Sharingan sharing. When Kakashi revealed Sharingan, not only did he not cut it, but even Li Chuan took a special look. Sharingan, one of the 3 pupil techniques in this world, is the descendant of Indra, the eldest son of the Sage of the 6 Paths, and the blood successor of the Uchiha clan. It has powerful abilities such as observation, replication, and hypnosis. The holder has extraordinary insight, can observe the flow of chakra, can apply and see through illusions, copy body and non-blood succession limit ninjutsu. Of course, the premise of copying ninjutsu is that there must be corresponding attributes. If there are only 1 or 2 attributes, even if there is Sharingan, ninjutsu with other attributes cannot be copied. Kakashi can copy thousands of ninjutsu, and he is so famous in the ninja world because, like Li Chuan, he is also a ninja with 5 attributes of chakra. It's a good thing, but it's a pity that it's not from the Uchiha family. It's a bit tasteless to transplant it. Sharingan is of course a good thing, but it is not that after the Uchiha family transplants, it will cause a great burden on the body, which will greatly reduce the amount of chakra that can be used. Moreover, the truly powerful kaleidoscope can only be opened after the death of a loved one, which is really hard to accept. At least for now, he doesn't intend to write the idea of sharing eyes. Then stop talking nonsense, let's kill you first. Using the instant body technique to appear on the small river in the distance, Zabuza made a special seal gesture. Ninjutsu. Fog concealment technique. With the gushing out of a large amount of chakra, a large thick fog quickly rose around, enveloping everyone. Seeing this, Kakashi pulled out kunai and walked forward. While sensing the disappearance of Zabuza, he calmly reminded Naruto and the others. This is the ninjutsu of Wuin Village, and it is also the silent killing technique that Zabuza is best at. It uses thick fog to block the line of sight, and then quietly approaches and kills the enemy before they are aware of it. Be careful. After reminding, he specifically asked Li Chuan, "Chuan, please take care of them for me." From Kakashi's point of view, Li Chuan is the only one with good physical skills among the few people at present. Don't worry, leave it to the little monk. Although the little monk likes to be vegetarian, the little monk's Zen staff is not vegetarian. Li Chuan slammed his Zen staff on the ground vigorously, with a serious expression on his face. He doesn't have the confidence to win one-on-one, but if he blocks it for a while, it won't be a problem. And the three Sasukes and Dasna behind him were so overwhelmed by the astonishing murderous aura exuded by Zabuza and Kakashi that they were speechless, and even had the illusion that if they moved, they would die immediately. At the same time, they also admired Li Chuan for being able to reply so calmly under such circumstances. Zabuza is a ninja who grew up from the policy of blood mist hidden in the fog. The content of the graduation exam is to kill all the companions of the same period. When performing the task, there are countless lives in hand. Before the death of the fourth generation, Kakashi was also a person with extreme personality and kept silent in the dark. Don't look at him being cheerful now, he always likes to take this book and read it to heaven. The enemies who have been killed in missions are no less than no cut, and they have also participated in the Third Ninja World War like a meat grinder. The murderous aura exuded by the two of them can be imagined for Naruto's impact on these ninjas who have just graduated and haven't even killed anyone. As for Li Chuan, he did black boxing in his previous life and killed a lot, and the blood in his hands in Sokovia in the past few years was only a lot more bloody than in his previous life. So in the face of the murderous collision between Kakashi and Zabuza, there is no psychological pressure. Is it really? At this time, Zabuza's voice suddenly sounded in the dense fog, and before everyone could react, he had already stabbed Dasna, who was surrounded in the middle with a kunai. In the face of a Jonin-level attack, Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura had no time to react except for their instinctive hairs to stand on end. Eat the little monk's stick. They couldn't react, but Li Chuan could. I saw that he didn't even turn his body. He raised his foot and kicked the Zen staff to raise it horizontally, as if eyes had grown in the back of his head, and smashed towards the place where Buzan appeared again. Chapter 41. As a warrior, it is not only through the eyes to detect the movement of the enemy, but also the wind, breath, sound, smell, murderous intent and other aspects to judge a person's position. Even with his eyes closed, Li Chuan can still fight with his extraordinary body and rich experience. The silent killing technique of no more slashing is indeed powerful. It can almost move in the dense fog without making a sound, but it still cannot escape Li Chuan's induction. Clang! Facing this unexpected Zen staff, he didn't frown again, and immediately diverted the kunai that was stabbing at Dasna, and faced the Zen staff that was directly hitting his chest with great force. That's a lot of strength. Kunai collided with the Zen stick, his face changed instantly, and he hurriedly backed away to relieve the force from the Zen stick. The Zen staff is a heavy weapon, and the one in Li Chuan's hand was specially made by Jinai, which is twice as heavy as an ordinary Zen staff. If you don't cut it, you are still holding the beheading sword in your hand at this time, you can still touch it, and take a kunai like a dagger, and naturally you can't resist it. In addition, as a martial artist, Li Chuan's physical strength is very tyrannical, coupled with chakra, the talent of the immortal race that can strengthen the physical body, and exerts strength through special skills. When the Zen rod came over, if he didn't cut it again, if he hadn't retreated fast enough because of his rich experience, if he chose to fight hard, his wrist would probably be broken by now. It was only now that Zabuza began to really pay attention to Li Chuan in his heart. In the world of ninjas, intelligence is very important, so any ninja who is more powerful will basically appear in the ninja handbooks of major ninja villages. Therefore, even if Zabuza and Kakashi met for the first time, they could immediately recognize the other party's identity and roughly understand the other party's general information. Similarly, if a ninja is not even mentioned in the ninja manual, then basically the strength will not be very strong, at least in the eyes of the elite ninjas like Zabuza. There is no need to pay too much attention. It's just that he couldn't have imagined that Li Chuan was still the prince of the Fire Kingdom 8 months ago, and he basically stayed in the Temple of Fire after becoming a ninja. Except for the people in the Temple of Fire, no one knew Li Chuan's strength. Even Di Lu actually didn't know what Li Chuan's real strength was. Because the ninjutsu that Li Chuan learned secretly was basically never shown in front of Lulu, he just practiced it in private. The ruthless moves and ultimate moves used by some warriors in killing have never been used in the sparring with Lulu. People always have to keep some whole cards, otherwise all information will be mastered by others, and it is easy to fall into a passive position during a battle. As expected of an elite JNIN, Li Chuan turned around and looked at the retreating Zabuza, and couldn't help but let out a sigh. Just now, Zabuza used the silent killing technique to sneak attack Dazna, and he took advantage of the opponent's underestimation of himself and turned around to fight back when Kakashi was basically focused on it. However, even so, Zaibi Yuzan was still able to react in time, and escaped the attack without injury by retreating. What a speed! As soon as he sighed that Zabuza was an experienced veteran, he saw Kakashi had seized the opening and appeared behind Zabuza, who retreated, and silently inserted kunai into Zabuza's waist. Puff! However, unexpectedly, Zabucho, who was inserted into the waist by kunai, turned into a puddle of water and fell to the ground in an instant. And behind Kakashi, Zabuza actually appeared again. Puff! With the same sound again, Kakashi also turned into a puddle of water, and there was a handful of kunai on Zabuza's neck. What exactly is going on? The Naruto trio still haven't figured out what happened. It seemed like a long time since Zabuza's sneak attack on Dazna, and now Kakashi's kunai was on Zabuza's neck, but it was actually just a second or two. When I was forced to retreat just now, I already used the water body technique and hid my real body in the thick fog. And Kakashi copied his ninjutsu when Zabuza used the clone technique, and also hid his real body in the thick fog. So in fact, just now, it was their water bodies that were fighting. Quote. Li Chuan explained with a serious expression. Even with his eyesight, he could see the movements of the two of them clearly, but with his proficiency in ninjutsu, he still couldn't do what they did, and cast a clone to replace the main body in an instant. To be honest, if an enemy with slightly poor eyesight encountered two people, they might have been killed by their clones in the first round. The little monk has good eyesight, and the copying ninja Kakashi is also well deserved. He can see through and copy my ninjutsu so quickly. But that's it. A figure suddenly appeared in the thick fog, and then attacked Kakashi's back. It turned out that the Zabuza whose neck was held by Kakashi was still a water body, and the real Zabuza had been hiding in the thick fog and never appeared. Because of Kakashi's Sharingan, most of the chakra in his body is restricted, and the amount of chakra that can be used is very small, and the shadow clone technique must allocate half of the chakra every time. Therefore, Kakashi is still very cautious about the use of shadow clones. This is different from the multiple shadow clones. If there are multiple shadow clones, Kakashi can also separate hundreds of them, but as he himself said, they can only be used to bluff people. Multiple shadow clones distribute the chakra in the body evenly. Assuming that Kakashi has 100 chakras, then after he separates out 100 clones, there will only be one chakra in the main body and the clone. But he used the shadow avatar to create one, so the avatar would be 50 and the main body would be 50, so the combat power would naturally not be weak. Divide another 1, 25 clones, 25 main body, it's okay. But if the division continues, it will weaken the fighting power of the main body too much. Therefore, multiple shadow clones are only suitable for people with a large amount of chakra in the body, such as Naruto, whose chakra in the body explodes. Even if dozens of clones are separated, each clone still has a lot of chakra. Although Zabuza is an elite Junin like Kakashi, but without the burden of Sharingan, the amount of chakra in the body is that of a normal elite Junin, and a few more shadow clones will not affect the strength too much. At this time, Li Chuan raised his Zen stick in his hand, and finally put it down again. When Zabuza's body was still, he couldn't notice it even under the cover of dense fog, but when Zabuza rushed towards Kakashi, the airflow driven by his body was enough for him to see Zabuza's position. If he threw the Zen stick in his hand at this time, he could immediately interrupt Zabuza's attack, but he still didn't do that after thinking about it. Because that didn't fit with the plan of action he had made in the first place. Anyway, with Kakashi's skill, he definitely wouldn't be killed just like that. Sure enough, although it was a bit unexpected, Kakashi still wiped out the water body in front of him, and then turned around to block Zabuza's attack in time. However, because he was a step too slow to clean up the water in front of him, he was kicked into the small river in front of him with another kick during the physical skill contest. Water escape water prison technique. Seeing Kakashi falling into the water, Zabuza showed a sneer on his face, stepped forward quickly, and launched the ninjutsu prepared in advance. It turned out that he didn't expect to solve the famous Kakashi quickly at all. All he did before was to force Kakashi into the river and trap him with the technique of water prison. His task is not to kill Kakashi, or to win with Kakashi, but to kill Dazna, so the battle plan formulated from the beginning is this. Being able to walk from a mountain of corpses to an elite ninja, and being able to retreat completely after killing Mizukage, and not being killed by Kurigakure's chasing department, his strength and fighting wisdom are definitely not as good as those at this time. How low is Kakashi? However, there was a small flaw when he appeared on the stage, and the beheading sword was accepted by Li Chuan. But that can't be helped. Apart from strength, ninja battles are all about intelligence. He has information about Kakashi, but not about Li Chuan. It's normal for accidents to happen. It's like two armies confronting each other, the strength of the two generals is similar, but a certain unknown soldier in one of them has the same fighting power as Liu Biyu, and you can't predict it when Zhuge Liang comes. Even Kakashi is not so easy to break the water prison technique performed by Fukuto. But in the same way, no matter how uncut the main body is to maintain this technique, it cannot move. However, it was obvious that Zabuza had been prepared for a long time. With one hand, he maintained the water prison technique to trap Kakashi, and with the other hand, he created a water body again. We've been waiting for this moment. Seeing the uncut Shui body walking towards them step by step, Li Chuan picked up his Zen staff and went straight to meet them. You protect Mr. Dishonor, I will deal with him. The confrontation between Zabuza and Kakashi just now has made the three of Naruto completely lose confidence. Even the strongest Sasuke, seeing Zabuza approaching step by step, trembled a little in his hand holding kunai. Fortunately, apart from Kakashi, there is also Li Chuan who is obviously much stronger than them. Little monk, you can barely enter the manual of my uncle, but unfortunately, it is no longer necessary. Holding kunai again, without wasting any time, he attacked Li Chuan like lightning. The ninjas who can be included in his ninja manual are all ninjas recognized by him, but if a person dies, there is no need to write it in the manual. Sasuke, Naruto, and Sakura, the three of you protect Mr. Dazna to retreat a little further, his water body can't be too far away from the main body. Chuan, there is no need to confront him head-on, as long as he persists for 5 minutes, his water body will be released automatically. With his current chakra, if I create another clone, I can forcefully break through his water prison. Quote. Although Cassie was trapped in the water dungeon, he quickly formulated a battle plan based on the situation on the scene. He is now very fortunate to have gathered in the Temple of Fire, a ninja monk who is obviously strong, otherwise the situation will be troublesome now. With the strength of the Naruto trio, they would not even have the basic ability to fight back in the face of the clone that will not be cut again. 5 minutes, that's not that difficult. Faced with Zabuza who was attacking quickly, Li Chuan held the Zen staff with both hands and pierced his whole body with force, even performing the unpretentious but powerful Shaolin Dharma staff technique. This is the stick method he once learned from a Shaolin disciple. Although the moves are simple, it can maximize the power of the Zen stick. To defeat the elite Jonin level Zabuza, he might not be an opponent even if he played all his cards, but he still has confidence in holding on for 5 minutes under his water skills. Deliberately turning the situation into this, in fact, part of the reason is that he wants to fight against the clone who will never be cut again, and find out his current strength. Clang, clang, clang. After a series of dense metal collisions, Shui's body, who was no longer cut, had to retreat temporarily, stopping his plan to defeat Li Chuan with the close-to-body technique. Li Xuanwu's water could not penetrate the Zen staff, which weighed nearly 200 catties, and he couldn't find a chance to kill it with one blow. If he had a beheading sword in his hand at this time, he could still bump into each other and win by his exquisite sword skills, but only by relying on kunai. He felt that every time he collided, there was a risk of causing Shui to fall apart. So far, you have been using taijutsu, and you don't seem to be very good at ninjutsu. The uncut Shui body looked at Li Chuan, and slowly put away kunai. In the critical moments when he might be injured several times during the battle, the opponent did not use ninjutsu, but chose to trade injury for injury, forcing him to return to defense. It's true that I'm not good at ninjutsu, but I can still do it if I stick to it for 5 minutes. Li Chuan knew that if he didn't kill him again, he was testing him, and he answered that way on purpose. He wants to create an image in front of everyone that he is not good at ninjutsu, and fight with only his own taijutsu as much as possible. This can not only hide one's own strength, but also avoid suspicion when doing certain things in the future. You underestimate my uncle too. Don't chop your hands quickly to seal. Water escape water dragon bullet technique. With a body of water that is as chakra as uncut, it is natural to display the corresponding ninjutsu. With the completion of the no-cut seal, the huge water dragon formed by the B-level water dragon bomb technique flew towards Li Chuan ferociously. If he was hit by the water dragon shot by the elite Jonin, even with Li Chuan's current physical fitness, he would probably suffer serious injuries. So he resolutely threw the Zen stick in his hand towards the water dragon to temporarily slow down the speed of the water dragon, and then jumped up at the fastest speed to escape the attack range of the water dragon. There is no way. The speed of the water dragon is too fast. If he is carrying a heavy Zen staff, then he may not be able to escape in time. It's over. However, the moment Li Chuan jumped up, the uncut body of Shui appeared behind him at the same time, and stabbed towards his neck with kunai. Behind, be careful. Seeing that Zabuza appeared behind Li Chuan, the three Naruto reminded loudly in horror. Unfortunately, if they had to wait for their reminder, Li Chuan would have been stabbed in the neck long ago. It's you who finished it. Sensing Zabuza appearing from behind, Li Chuan was not only not afraid, but showed an expression on his face that he knew you would be like this, and then made a thrusting motion with both hands. A strange thing happened. A sharp long knife unexpectedly appeared in his empty hand. So before Kun Wu, who was not going to be cut again, pierced Li Chuan's neck, he was pierced by Li Chuan and disappeared into a puddle of water. Zabuza wanted to make Li Chuan give up the powerful Zen stick in his hand through the water dragon bullet, and kill him when he was empty-handed, but he didn't expect that Li Chuan had already taken precautions. Will Li Chuan have no weapons? There are a lot of knives, guns, swords and halberds in his mission space, and they can be taken out and put in instantly. If he wanted to, he could have faced the enemy empty-handed 1 second, and had an extra long sword in his hand the next second, and the long sword he had slashed in the next second would have turned into a big axe. Compared with Tiantian's, there is also an action to take the weapon from the seal scroll in advance, which is more unpredictable and defensive. How is it possible? Where did he take out the weapon? The water body was killed, and Kakashi's eyes widened instantly at this time when Kakashi was controlled by the water prison technique. Because he didn't see where Li Chuan took out the weapon at all, could it be a psychic technique? Anyway, it couldn't be taken from the sealed scroll, otherwise it wouldn't escape his eyes. But the psychic technique also requires biting the finger to perform, and Li Chuan didn't do this action just now. Or, what special blood succession limit? That's great. Naruto, who was hiding in the distance, saw that Li Chuan had successfully killed the water body that would never be cut again, and immediately shouted excitedly. And Sakura next to him was greatly relieved. As for Sasuke, that guy had a constipated expression on his face, and he probably entered into the daily ideological struggle of why I am so weak, and when will I be able to kill my Onisan. Mr. Zabuza, look, is it you who took the initiative to remove the water prison technique, or should I step forward to help you remove it? After landing, Li Chuan took the long knife and walked step by step towards Zabuza by the small river. Zabuza let out a cold snort, put away his ninjutsu and quickly backed away to distance himself from Kakashi and Li Chuan. With the fighting ability and experience shown by Li Chuan, it is impossible for him to defeat the water prison technique when he is unable to move his body while controlling it with one hand. Instead of this, it is better to give up the technique of the water prison, and then draw a distance to win by ninjutsu. Chuan, leave the rest to me. Kakashi, who came out of the water prison technique, was clearly a little angry. Being calculated by Zabuza almost put the target to be protected and the three lovely disciples in crisis, and now he is also simmering with fire in his heart. Okay, then I'll protect Mr. Disowner. Li Chuan rolled his eyes and immediately agreed. He needs both Kakashi and Zabuza to be in his favor. It's not a wise choice to deal with me alone. Seeing Li Chuan turned and left over there, only Kakashi stood opposite him, with a sneer on Zabujan's face, and then began to seal. But soon he couldn't laugh anymore, because Kakashi actually formed seals at the same time as him, and all the movements were the same, and then he performed exactly the same ninjutsu. He always thought that Kakashi's Sharingan was to copy the ninja after he saw the human being perform the ninja, but he didn't expect to be able to perform it at the same time. At the same time, after reuniting with the four Naruto, Li Chuan was watching the wonderful ninjutsu battle between Kakashi and Zabujan, and suddenly his ears moved. He noticed that there seemed to be an extra person in the woods not far away. If I didn't guess wrong, it should be that the men who didn't kill me came in vain. He knew that the first purpose of this Zabujan attack must be to kill Dazna to complete the mission, and the second is to let the high-intelligence Shiro analyze Kakashi's intelligence to find weaknesses through the battle if the mission fails. Water escape Great Waterfall Technique. After a battle, Kakashi copied Zabuza's ninjutsu and movements, and secretly used Sharingan to cast illusions on Zabuza, causing his psychological defenses to collapse, and finally defeated him with the A-level waterfall technique. Climb the tree. Seeing the huge water waves rushing towards this side after defeating Zabujan, Li Chuan grabbed Naruto with one hand and Dazna with the other, and jumped onto the big tree next to him. Sasuke and Sakura also followed closely. After the water wave passed, Zabujan was seriously injured and lay under the big tree. Several joints of his arms and legs were filled with kunai by Kakashi, and he was unable to continue fighting. However, just when Kakashi went up with the bitter plan to completely end Zabuza, two steel needles about 30 centimeters long flew out of the dense forest, and precisely inserted them into Zabuza's neck, stabbing them on the spot. Die. Immediately afterwards, a 15 or 16-year-old boy wearing a Kurigakure Pursuit Force mask appeared on the tree trunk. Thank you for your help, I have been looking for a chance to kill and not kill. Each ninja village has its own hunting force, which specializes in dealing with those ninjas who defected to the ninja village, preventing their corpses from being taken away by other ninja villages after death, so as to dig out information about secret medicine, ninjutsu, etc. that are not good for the village chief. So the boy's intention is obvious, that is, to kill Zabujan, this Kurigakure traitor, and then bring his body back to Wuin village. Kakashi stepped forward and touched Zabujo's neck, nodded after confirming that there was no heartbeat. Now is a time of peace, as Konoha's ninja, he cannot stop Kurigakure's chasing troops from taking away the dead body, otherwise it will cause disputes among countries. Wait, just when the young man was about to go forward to pick up the dead body, Li Chuan suddenly stopped him. The young man calmly looked up at Li Chuan. Any questions? Kakashi and others also looked at Li Chuan. Li Chuan said with a smile. I forgot to tell you that although the little monk is not good at ninjutsu, he has some medical skills, and the 2,000 roots of this young man just now, although they pierced the neck of Zabushu, they were only inserted into the acupuncture points. Therefore, not beheading is just a suspended animation, and you can wake up after unplugging Chinbin. Quote. What? Hearing Li Chuan's words, Kakashi and the others were shocked. At this time, Shiro, who pretended to be Kurigakure chasing the ninja, knew that he had been exposed. He stretched out his hand and threw out a piece of Senbon, picked up Zabuza on the ground and fled quickly. Li Chuan knocked Chinbin flying with the long knife in his hand, then jumped up and jumped a few times on the tree, chasing after Bai who was fleeing. You protect Mr. Dazna back, and the little monk chases them. I'm going to help too. Naruto was about to follow when he saw this, but Kakashi stopped him with his hand. There may be accomplices, protect Mr. Disowner and go home first. Naruto wanted to refute, but found that Kakashi rolled his eyes and fell to the ground. It turned out that Kakashi won the final victory in the battle with Zabujan, but he also exhausted the chakra in his body, and his body also suffered serious injuries. Different from Chidori and Rachel, which he himself invented, they are powerful but don't consume too much chakra. Those water escape ninjutsu performed by Zabujan are all area attack ninjutsu that need to consume a lot of chakra. On a piece of lawn 2 kilometers away from the dense forest at the beginning, Li Chuan finally stopped Bai who was hugging him again. Bai's speed is not slow, but he is still not as fast as Li Chuan, a master of physical skills, if he moves with a person in his arms. It's just that Li Chuan wanted to stay away from Kakashi and the others, so he waited until he left the woods before catching up and stopping by. Kakashi didn't chase after him, and it seems that he is not as relaxed as he appears on the surface. Bye, kill this little monk, and then go back to kill Kakashi and Dasna. At this time, Zai Bu cut, Qian Ben, who had already pulled out his neck, woke up. After learning the following situation from Shiro, he immediately judged that Kakashi must have suffered serious injuries. Otherwise, with Kakashi's strength, when his fake death is exposed, he should be able to stop the escaped Shiro. Even if he didn't stop him, he wouldn't let the little monk chase him alone. If you leave now and don't interfere with my completion of the task, I don't have to kill you. Bai Wenru put it away without cutting it, then took off his mask, revealing his handsome face that is not inferior to that of a woman, and persuaded Li Chuan. With a kind heart, he doesn't want to hurt anyone, but he can't disobey the order not to behead, because if he doesn't take him in and recognize him, he would have lost the meaning of living. There's no need to kill people with your mouth shut. The little monk didn't want to kill the two of you after catching up, but just wanted to make a deal with you. Li Chuan retracted the long knife in his hand to the task space, and put on a harmless look. Bye, get rid of him quickly, and then go back and kill Kakashi. I don't want to listen to the little monk's nonsense if I don't chop again. If I slow down and let Kakashi recover, this rare opportunity will be missed. Unfortunately, since you don't want to leave, I can only kill you. Bai apologized to Li Chuan, and then sealed with both hands. Ice escape secret art magic mirror ice crystal. In an instant, ice mirrors appeared around Li Chuan, surrounding him. I know your physical skills are very strong, but in my secret skills, no matter how strong physical skills are, they are useless. After the ice mirrors appeared, Bai's body touched one of the ice mirrors and instantly merged with it, and then a Bai appeared in each of the ice mirrors, surrounding Li Chuan in the middle. It seems that we can only talk about the next thing if we defeat you first. Seeing Bai, who performed the ice escape secret art, Li Chuan took a deep breath and began to pose in a strange pose. Bai, a descendant of the Snow Clan, possesses the inherited blood successor boundary ice dungeon, Jonin strength, a rare genius ninja who can do one-handed seals, and the ice escape ninjutsu developed by himself is also very powerful. After knowing this information, Li Chuan dared to chase after him alone, so he was naturally certain. Come and welcome Thousand Hand Killer. He shouted loudly, and the chakra, the talent of the immortal race, in his body glowed with golden light, and then a 3 to 4 meter high golden thousand-handed Avalokitesvara gushed out of his body and wrapped him up. The strongest esoteric ninjutsu in the Temple of Fire was taught to him by Ji Lu before he came out to travel. Although he still can't be as powerful as when Lulu cast it, he is still sure to break through Bai's ice mirror. Bai's magic mirror ice crystal secret technique allows him to freely shuttle through all the ice mirrors at an extremely fast speed. Even if Jonin is surrounded by them, they cannot keep up with his speed. Moreover, the ice mirrors stand in all directions, and there is no dead angle for attacking, so they cannot be defended at all. Under normal circumstances, Li Chuan really has no good solution, unless he takes out a set of full-body armor from the mission space and puts it on. Even if he is defeated in this way, it will be a matter of time. But by coincidence, Bai's secret technique was restrained by the ninjutsu of the Temple of Fire. Because the ninjutsu of lying thousand hands killing can be defended at 360 degrees without dead ends, and it can also actively attack and defend, track and counterattack. It's useless. In the face of extreme speed, any resistance is futile. Bai flew out of an ice mirror at a speed that was hard to see with the naked eye, and quickly pierced Li Chuan with an ice needle. That also requires you to be able to beat the little monk. Li Chuan smiled slightly, and when Bai's ice needle just touched the golden thousand-handed Avalokitesvara statue covered by him, a golden palm immediately stretched out, and accurately punched Bai back into the ice mirror. How so? Covering his stomach in the ice mirror, he looked at the statue of Avalokitesvara covered by Li Chuan's body, with a look of surprise on his face. It was the first time that someone was able to intercept his attack in the ice mirror and beat him back. Your speed is indeed fast, but I have 3,000 hands to attack. Can you be faster than my 3,000 hands? Li Chuan, who maintained the posture of welcoming and killing thousands of hands, said in a calm tone. Fighting is not only about strength, intelligence and psychological warfare are also very important, which was greatly reflected in the previous battle between Kakashi and Zabuza. If he didn't cut it again, it was because he didn't know enough about Kakashi's ability to write sharing eyes, and he lost another psychologically, so he lost. And Li Chuan is the same now. He knows all the information about Bai, and Bai only knows about him so far that he is very strong in physical skills. Now Li Chuan said these words in order to oppress Bai psychologically, so that Bai will have a bigger opening so that he can be defeated in one fell swoop. You must know that the weakness of Liang Qinsho is that it consumes a lot of chakra and cannot move his body. After a long delay, if his weakness is noticed, he can only run away. Then try. Bai flew out of the ice mirror again, and then kept shuttling through each ice mirror, attacking Li Chuan's up, down, left, and right from different angles, but was repulsed every time by the palm of Avalokitesvara. Water escape secret technique 1000 killing Shui Shang. After realizing that you couldn't get close at all, Bai formed another seal in the ice mirror, and countless water droplets in the air turned into ice needles, attacking Li Chuan at 360 degrees without any dead angle. However, all the ice needles were blocked by Avalokitesvara, and Li Chuan was unharmed. It's now. Seeing Bai stunned because his secret technique was ineffective, Li Chuan knew it was time to fight back. Angry King Kong. Welcome to the second stage of Thousand Hands Killing. The Angry King Kong is activated. The golden thousand-handed Avalokitesvara instantly turned into a red angry-eyed Vajra, and red chakra fists flew out one by one, smashing all the ice mirrors surrounding him, and Bai was also thrown out of the ice because he was in a daze and did not defend in time. Mirror. Putting away the angry-eyed King Kong statue, spreading the only chakra all over his body, Li Chuan exerted force with his legs, and killed Bai, who was knocked into the air. Ice escape ice rock hall. In midair, Bai, who had reacted, quickly formed a seal, and a semicircular ice wall wrapped him up. Xingyi, bang fist. Facing the erected ice wall, Li Chuan did not hesitate at all, and used his best and most powerful Bangquan. The waist and the horse are united, gathering the strength of the muscles of the whole body in one punch, coupled with the blessing of the immortal talent to the physical body. His punch is as powerful as a landslide, directly piercing through the ice wall, and finally stops it in front of Bai's eyes. Little monk really doesn't have any malicious intentions. Let's chat now. If this punch is hit, I will die. Bai looked at the fist that stopped in front of his eyes, felt the wind that caused some pain on his face, swallowed silently, and then turned his head to look at Zabuza, who was lying there. And if he didn't cut it again, he looked at Li Chuan with some uncertainty. What do you want to talk about? He didn't expect that with Bai's strength, he would actually lose to the young monk in front of him, whose identity he didn't know until now, and the young monk acted very relaxed from the beginning to the end. If the little monk hadn't held back just now, Bai would have been killed, and he couldn't escape the fate of being killed. In fact, he didn't know that Li Chuan didn't have much chakra in his body now, and he was able to behave so calmly from the beginning to the end, all because of the superiority of intelligence and the targeted combat strategy he had planned in advance. If you don't know Bai's information, if the two fight, it's really hard to say the outcome. Actually, I want to invite you to join my organization. Li Chuan sat cross-legged opposite Zabuza, and smiled slightly. No longer cut his brows and frowned. What organization? The Avengers. Li Chuan coughed and explained. It's very simple. You can think of him as a mutually beneficial organization formed for revenge. There is no mandatory requirement. It's just that everyone exchanges information and helps each other. The world of Naruto is not a safe world. If he alone, it will be very difficult to do many things. He also needs some good helpers. This is also the reason why he took the time to travel to the Kingdom of Waves. If it was purely for doing business in the Kingdom of Waves, wouldn't it be easier to come back after Kado died? Exchange information. Help each other. I don't believe in you, nor do I believe that there is such a good thing in this world. Hearing Li Chuan's explanation, Zabuza didn't believe at all in his eyes, and even showed great disdain. Even the ninjas in one village in the ninja world of you and I are scheming against each other, and hope that some ninjas from other ninja villages will share information and help each other together, which is simply too naive. Li Chuan had expected the reaction of Zabuza, but he also made some preparations. If Zabuza cannot be completely persuaded to join his organization, then even if Zabuza is forced to agree now by threatening force, then he will regret it afterwards, which is useless. Well, if you are willing to join, I can first tell you a piece of information that should be very important to you, and then I can return your beheading sword to you. I join. Zabuza agreed almost without thinking. He doesn't really want to join, but he can get back the beheading knife and get an information for nothing, why not? At this moment, he suddenly felt that this little monk seemed a little too naive. Seeing this, Li Chuan just smiled, then took out the seal scroll, took out the beheading sword, handed it to Bai, who was standing next to Zabuza, and continued to say. This information is about your fourth Mizukage Goju Yakura. In fact, he later restarted the blood mist tyranny, not because of his own will, but because he was controlled by illusion. What? Hearing this information from Li Chuan, Bi Yuzan's eyes widened violently, and the veins on his forehead popped instantly. Is your information accurate? At present, the illusion of the fourth generation of Mizukage has been dispelled. It was a ninja named Ching in your village who saw through it with supercilious eyes. Now the real power of Kurigakure has been handed over to Genshi. It's just that the spread of this kind of family scandal will greatly reduce Kurigakure's prestige, so only the senior management of Kurigakure knows that if you have time to sneak back to Wuin village, you can see that Kurigakure is no longer implementing the blood mist policy. Quote. Li Chuan outlined the information in his memory. His biggest advantage in this world has 3 points. One is the initial status of the prince of the country of fire. Although he has no real power, his status is very high, he has many privileges, and he is also very rich. The second is intelligence. He knows almost most of the ninja information and the unknown information of the major ninja villages. The third is the direction of the plot. Although with his appearance, there will inevitably be great changes in the future, but in the early stage, he can still take advantage of it to obtain a lot of benefits. Now he is using his own advantages to attract Zabuza to become his help. No wonder he's like that. Zabuza clenched his fist so hard that Kakashi's kunai pierced the joint in the first place, and he didn't care about the spout of blood again. At this time, based on his memories, he was basically sure that the information Li Chuan said should be true. Back then, the third generation carried out the policy of blood mist, and he killed all his companions in the same period. In order to end the tyranny, he supported Yakura together with Zigwashan Pufferfish, Ghost Full Moon and others and became the fourth generation of Mizukage. However, the good times didn't last long. For some reason, Yagura's personality suddenly changed, and he restarted the blood mist policy, and it was even more cruel than the previous 3 generations. Senior Zigwashan Blowfish wanted to investigate secretly but was killed, but he had no choice but to entangle a group of companions with Full Moon to assassinate Yakura, but the assassination failed, and he was the only one who managed to escape from the village. Later, he has been doing missions to raise funds for these years, and he also took in Shiro, who owns the limit of the Ice Shield Blood successor, in order to go back for revenge, overthrow the rule of Yakura, and establish a new Wuin village. If you don't behead me again, please take good care of your body. Seeing the wound on Zai Buku's body burst open due to anger, Bai hurriedly took out a bandage to bandage Zai Bucho, but was stopped by Li Chuan raising his hand. I know some medical ninjutsu, leave it to me. Thank you so much. Seeing that under the treatment of Li Chuan's palm immortal art, Bai's wounds that were no longer cut were gradually healed, and his favorability towards Li Chuan immediately increased a lot. Do you know who controlled Yakura with illusion? Zabuza looked up at Li Chuan, his eyes were full of hatred. This, my people are still investigating. Don't worry, as a member of our Avengers, I will tell you if there is any news. Li Chuan smiled, then stretched out his right hand to Zai Bi Yuzan. Let me introduce myself. My name is Yuan Chuan, and I am currently practicing in the Temple of Fire. He's not stupid, and he definitely won't tell all the information to Zaibuju. It's unrealistic to expect that if he gains benefits, he will definitely repay him. If you don't chop the peach land again, your surname is Yuan. After being treated by Li Chuan, Zai Bi Yuzan has basically resumed his actions, and also extended his right hand. It's just that when he heard Li Chuan's surname, his face showed surprise, because the surname Yuan was the surname of the royal family of the Fire Kingdom. Oh, I forgot to tell you, I am still the prince of the Fire Kingdom. Li Chuan withdrew his hand and replied indifferently. And hearing Li Chuan's identity, Zabuza and Bai widened their eyes at the same time. No wonder he knew such secret information, so he still had such a layer of identity. Although the illusion of the fourth generation of Mizukage has been dispelled, you are still a traitor who assassinated Mizukage on the bright side. For the sake of Kurigakure's reputation, they will not withdraw their pursuit of you. But you don't have to worry about this. As a partner of the organization, I will help you hide your identity. Similarly, if you really want to go back and take the position of Mizukage in the future, I can also help, especially provide some financial assistance. Quote. Li Chuan clapped his hands and stood up. Zabuza also stood up from the ground holding the beheading knife. He stared at Li Chuan for a long time before he said, "What do you need us to do? There is no free lunch in the world," and the other party provided information, provided treatment, returned the beheading knife, and provided them with all kinds of help, so how can there be nothing? We're all companions, so this little help is nothing. If you think it's okay, help me kill Kaduo in a few days later. With him, even if the bridge is repaired, the lives of the people of the Land of Waves will not be easy. The monks are merciful, and they don't want to see people suffer." Quote. Li Chuan put on a look of compassion, which made Zabuza and Bai couldn't help but twitch. Then he threw the token engraved with the words, "Bai," and "Black," to Bai and Zabuza. "This is the token of our organization. With it, you will be received at any Xuanji store in any town in the Land of Fire. You can go to a nearby town to recuperate first. I will notify you when we do it." Not long after returning to Hokage this time, he began to order Kinai to let the caravan set up shops in all towns in the Kingdom of Fire, and named them all Xuanji. On the surface, they are all ordinary grocery stores, and they usually assist the caravan to do business normally. In fact, they have built darkrooms underground, which can be used for hiding and resting. Funds are not sufficient now. After taking down Kado's business and eating up the commercial profits of the entire Bo Kingdom, he will also establish shops in all other countries to expand operations and assist in intelligence collection. Grocery stores, hotels, custom shops, hot springs, etc., are diversified and all-round development. How many members does our organization currently have? Put away the token, and asked Li Chuan, who was about to turn and leave without cutting. Li Chuan pointed to Zabuza and Bai, and then pointed to himself. At present, there are only 3 of us as official members. In the future, I will recruit according to the situation. Of course, if you have a good candidate, you can also recommend it to me. After speaking, he didn't stay any longer, turned around and left quickly. And when Li Chuan's figure completely disappeared, Bai Kai asked Zabuza, "If you don't behead your lord, do we really want to join his organization?" His impression of Li Chuan was good, but that was under the condition that the will to kill Li Chuan was not involved. If he was asked to kill Li Chuan, he would still act according to the will to kill Li Chuan. No more beheading, and the sword of beheading is resisted on the shoulder. Anyway, there is no harm to us, and that Kado, if it wasn't for the money and preventing those annoying pursuers from making trouble again, I would have killed him long ago. Even an ordinary person dares to point fingers at me. Quote. He knew that Li Chuan wanted to use him, but why didn't he want to use Li Chuan? At least now he really wanted to know which bastard used illusion to control Yakura back then. On the other side, Li Chuan, who had dealt with Zabuza and Bai, returned to the place of the initial battle, and quickly tracked down Dazna's address through the traces left by Naruto and the others when they left. Brother Chuan. Xiao Ying was twisting the towel at the door, and when she saw Li Chuan appearing, she immediately showed a look of surprise. Just now she was still worried about whether it would be dangerous for Li Chuan to chase Zabuza and that boy. After all, as Zabuza's companion, that boy was definitely not weak. "It's Sakura. Where is Mr. Kakashi? Ms. Kakashi passed out after you left, and he hasn't woken up yet," Sakura replied with a worried tone. Different from Sasuke and Naruto, apart from being a top student, Sakura's strength is similar to that of normal ninjas of her age. She is a very normal ninja who just graduated. So when I saw Kakashi and Zabuza fighting at the level of ninja, I was still very panicked. It seems that he was injured during the battle with Zabuza. The monk is proficient in medical ninjutsu, so he should be able to help. Li Chuan comforted with a smile. Xiao Sakura was overjoyed when she heard this, and immediately dropped the towel and brought Li Chuan to the room where Kakashi was. At this time, in addition to Naruto and Sasuke, there were Dasna and his family in the room. Seeing Li Chuan appear, Naruto immediately asked, "Brother Chuan, won't you kill them after you catch up?" Although Sasuke didn't speak, he pricked up his ears, obviously he was very concerned about the result. "I am ashamed to say that I have caught up with him, but that young man is very strong and can do some special ninjutsu. The little monk couldn't keep him, and he even snatched the scroll that sealed the big sword." Li Chuan shook his head, then changed the subject. "Let's not talk about it, let's treat Mr. Kakashi first." After he finished speaking, he squatted down and performed the palm fairy technique on several wounds on Kakashi's body. Mr. Kakashi's trauma is not serious. The main reason is that he has consumed too much chakra and his body is a little overloaded. He can recover after a few days of rest. Damn it, he's not much older than us, yet he's so strong. I must work harder. Hearing that Li Chuan, who was so powerful, was no match for that young man, Naruto gritted his teeth and screamed. Compared with that young man, he felt like a waste. Sasuke, who was sitting there with a cold face, also clenched his fists tightly. For the first time, the always proud Sasuke felt that he was not much better than Naruto. At this time, Kakashi also woke up from the coma, and when he heard Naruto's words, he couldn't help reaching out and pressing his head. In this world, there are those ninjas who are not much older than you, but stronger than me. Work hard. He thought of the subordinate who used to be in Onbi, Sasuke's brother, the Konoha S-class rebel who slaughtered the entire Uchiha alone, Uchiha Itachi. That boy is 3 or 4 years older than you. When you reach his age, you will definitely be better than him. As for the little monk, who is already 20 this year, he is 8 years older than you. When you reach this age, you will definitely become famous in the ninja world, powerful ninja." Li Chuan also smiled and comforted him. In fact, he is not a consolation, because this is a fact. If the plot develops according to the plot, the two will become the strongest ninjas in the ninja world before they are 20 years old. Brother Chuan is really gentle and handsome. If it weren't for the monk, he would have been younger. Sakura over there looked at Li Chuan and thought secretly. Then she turned her head to look at Sasuke who was still cool over there, her cheeks turned red instantly. "Speaking of it, Sasuke and I are the best match. When we are both 20 years old, will we all have babies?" "Can you take a step to speak, Darsna?" "What's the matter, Keech?" "Actually, I've been thinking a lot recently, can you let me quit building bridges?" On the bridge in the Kingdom of Waves, Li Chuan looked at the bridge builders who had resigned from Dasna, and gradually raised an imperceptible smile at the corner of his mouth. After resting for a day yesterday, Dasna called the workers who built the bridge with him to start work today. Kakashi rested at Dasna's house because his body had not recovered. Naruto and Sasuke also began to practice chakra control of climbing trees. Sakura, who has a very high control over chakra, and Li Chuan, who is fine, are responsible for protecting Dasna's safety. But not long after the start of work, one by one the workers resigned from Dasna one after another, because they were all threatened by Kado when Dasna was away. If they dared to build the bridge with Dazina, they would all be sanctioned by Kado, and they would even be killed together with their families. Although Dazina was helpless and angry, he let them go. In the end, he was the only one who insisted on building the bridge. How can these people be like this? If they give up building the bridge, they will always be ruled by Kado. Seeing those workers leaving one by one, Xiao Sakura couldn't help being a little angry for dishonor. Li Chuan smiled. Actually, it's also understandable. From their point of view, the repair of the bridge in the Kingdom of Waves will indeed free the Kingdom of Waves from Kado's rule, and it will also allow them to live a better life. However, if they and their families were killed before that, it would have nothing to do with them no matter how good their future life is. They had the courage to stand up and repair the bridge before, which is considered pretty good. Quote, "Yeah, but even if I am alone, I will definitely finish the bridge, and I won't let Kado's plot succeed." Dasna over there heard Li Chuan's words and said with firm eyes. He understood those workers who resigned. You must know that they didn't need a penny, and they were helping to repair the bridge completely voluntarily, so he didn't say anything but let them go. "Mr. Dishonor, if you don't mind, the little monk can help you a little bit." Li Chuan stepped forward directly to Dasna. Dasna quickly waved his hand when he heard the words. No, I'm very grateful for bothering you to protect me. If you help me with work, it's too unreasonable. He thought that Li Chuan was going to replace the workers to help him build the bridge, so he immediately refused. Taking advantage of the kindness of Li Chuan, a little monk, to let Li Chuan protect him for free has already made him feel guilty, and if he is asked to help the coolies repair the bridge for free, it is really hard on conscience. No, Mr. Dishonor, you misunderstood. The little monk said that he has a friend who has a lot of bridge repair workers. If necessary, the little monk can ask him to bring someone over to help. Li Chuan explained with a smile. Dasna first had a look of surprise on his face when he heard the words, and then sighed. Forget it, I have no way to pay for them to repair the bridge. All his savings have been used to release escort missions in Konoha. Even if the little monk's friend is not afraid of Kado's daring to come over, he can't afford to pay it all now. Li Chuan thought for a while and said, it shouldn't be a big problem. That friend of the monk is in business. Once the bridge is repaired, you should let his caravan trade in the country of waves first, and he should agree. If Dasna builds the bridge and frees the kingdom of waves from Kado's rule, then he is the hero of the kingdom of waves, and the person with the highest prestige in the hearts of the people of the kingdom of waves. With his help, the caravan under Li Chuan can quickly develop throughout the country of waves. Don't look at how poor the country of waves is now. The streets are full of cheap labor holding signs and wanting to work and earn money. But in fact, if Kado hadn't restricted the trade of the kingdom of waves, and even prevented them from fishing, the island nation of the kingdom of waves would definitely not be a poor country with its resources. Living in a country full of cheap labor, his caravan will definitely make a lot of money. Then go to the shipping company that ate up Kaduo. If the operation is good, he can become the real ruler behind the scenes of the country of waves in the later stage, and make this island country his lair in this world. The geographical location of the land of waves, apart from being close to the land of fire, has nothing to do with the three countries of thunder, wind, and earth. It is separated by a sea from the land of water and is also far away. It is a very suitable place to be used as a base. If ninjas from other countries want to deal with him, they have to pass through the country of fire first. And the kingdom of fire wants to deal with him. He is the prince of the kingdom of fire, and he has a noble status. As long as he does not betray the country and does not attack Muya village, this problem will not arise at all. If so, that would be really great. Dasna stepped forward and grabbed Li Chuan's hand, and said excitedly with tears in his eyes. He was worried that if the bridge was really repaired, would there be any caravan willing to offend Kado and come to their poor country? If no caravan is willing to come to trade, it will take a long time for them to recover. Unexpectedly, the friends of the little monk are not only willing to help them build bridges, but also willing to come to trade and drive their economy. They are really good people. Since you think it's okay, Mr. Dishonor, I'll write to him. As he spoke, Li Chuan took out the pen and paper from the sealed scroll, quickly wrote a letter, then bit his finger to channel a bird, and handed the letter to it. Go and deliver the letter to Matsukawa. The psychic beasts of the Temple of Fire are Monokanori. They have no attack ability, but they are extremely fast, and they are best at sending letters. Before the tour, Delu asked Li Chuan to sign a contract with this kind of psychic beast, saying that if something happened, he would be notified by Wu Jianiao, but Li Chuan basically used it to communicate with Jinai and Matsukawa. Song Chuan was the business-minded servant that he asked Jinai to choose from among the servants at the beginning, and he was also the boss of Mingmian Chuan-ji. At noon, Li Chuan and Sakura escorted Dasna to the town on the shore to buy vegetables. 7 or 8 out of 10 shops in the entire town have been closed, and only sporadic shops selling basic daily necessities are still open, and the types and quantities of things inside are also very scarce. Adults with placards on their chests and orphans with famine faces and thin faces in tattered clothes can be seen everywhere on the street. Maybe we can open an orphanage. During the years when Kado ruled the country of Bo, a lot of people died of starvation and were killed because of resistance, and a large number of orphans were left behind. Adopting these children and cultivating them well will become a group of loyal subordinates. He doesn't need to experiment with these children like Orochimaru, nor does he need them to grow into powerful ninjas. It is only necessary for them to be assigned to major towns to protect the safety of shops and caravans after they have grown to a certain strength. At the same time, it can also be used to pass on the information obtained by some major shops in the later stage. Facts have proved that in the world of Naruto, the strength of a power has little to do with how many ninjas it has. A truly powerful ninja can wipe out a country by himself. Expecting to adopt a large number of orphans in the Kingdom of Waves and train them into an army of ninjas is just a dream. If a Jonin can be born in a few years, it is considered good luck. With that time, it is better to work hard to improve yourself, and then recruit some real geniuses in the ninja world like Zabuza and buy into the organization. Li Chuan is very clear that the main purpose of his coming to the small world is to improve his own strength, and everything he does is based on this premise. If the cart before the horse, then there is no need. Because when you leave the small world, you can't take anything with you except your own strength. After lunch, in the afternoon, I still went to the bridge with Sakura to protect Dasna. As the evening approached, on the misty sea, a large ship with the word, Chuan, on it gradually appeared. Wow, what a big boat! Sakura pointed at the approaching ship and exclaimed. For Sakura, who has been living in the village and going out for the first time, this is the first time she has seen such a big boat. Yo, it seems that my friend has arrived. Li Chuan looked at the flag on the ship, and immediately confirmed that Song Chuan had brought people over as planned. When the big ship docked, a middle-aged man came to Li Chuan with more than 40 strong men and various construction tools. My lord, everyone has brought them. Okay, then let them do what Mr. Darsner tells them to do. Li Chuan nodded, then smiled at Dasna behind him. Mr. Dazina, this is my friend Matsukawa. If you have anything to talk about, I don't know about bridge building and trade. After introducing Matsukawa to Dasna, Li Chuan no longer intervened in their subsequent conversation. At this time, Sakura came up with some doubts and asked in a low voice. Brother Chuan, why do I feel that your friend Mr. Matsukawa seems to respect you very much? If it were Naruto and Sasuke, they probably wouldn't care about these subtle plots, they would only care about powerful ninjas, but Sakura is a delicate person. Through Song Chuan's attitude towards Li Chuan just now, she clearly found that it didn't seem to be an attitude that friends would have. Well, he respects me more, maybe because I lent him the money he did business back then. Li Chuan smiled and didn't explain much. When Sakura heard what Li Chuan said, she thought it was reasonable, so she didn't ask any more questions. She didn't mean anything malicious, she was just curious. With the help of the professional construction workers brought by Matsukawa, the construction speed of the bridge was obviously much faster. According to the calculation of Dizowner, a master bridge builder, it is estimated that the bridge can be completely built in less than a month. At night, Li Chuan did not go back with Sakura and Dasna, but stayed on the big boat on the shore to protect the safety of Matsukawa and others. At Datsuna's house, because Kakashi was around, many things were inconvenient for him. We meet again, Mr. Bujin and Bai. In the cabin of the big ship, Li Chuan greeted Zabuzan and Bai, who were resting. Hello, Mr. Chuan. Bai said hello to Li Chuan very politely, but Zabuza snorted coldly. When will Kado be killed? Wait a little longer. When Kado can't sit still and take the initiative to bring people to attack. It would be best if Kakashi and the others take action to kill him, and if there is no you, then take action to kill him. Li Chuan sat down and poured himself a cup of tea. As the world's top rich man, even though he is an ordinary person, Kaduo can't be killed if he wants to. He was worried that Kakashi would choose to let Kado go because he was afraid of affecting Konoha. At that time, the only way to kill him is to be rebellious. No problem, these two things are for you. Nodding his head again, he took out the two scrolls and put them on the table. Li Chuan picked them up and opened them to look at each one, showing a surprised look. This is the B-level water dragon bomb technique and the A-level waterfall technique. I don't like to owe favors. Since the purpose of the organization is to help each other and help you kill Kaduo and these two ninjutsu scrolls, it should be considered as offsetting your previous information and help. Zabuzan replied with a cold expression. What Li Chuan needs is ninjutsu, as long as it is an advanced ninjutsu, he wants it, and the water dragon bomb and the big waterfall technique are not so rare ninjutsu, nor is it the ninjutsu of Wuin and the ninjas of other great ninja villages will be. So after knowing Li Chuan's needs, Zabuza wrote it down and gave it to Li Chuan. Although these two ninjutsu were nothing compared to the previous information and helping him hide his identity later, they at least expressed his sincerity after joining the organization. Of course, it would be even better if you can guide me to learn these two ninjutsu when you have time. In return, I will pay for it. With two advanced ninjutsu, Li Chuan is in a very good mood. 4 days later, Kakashi's body fully recovered, and 2 weeks later, Naruto and Sasuke finally completed their tree climbing training. At this time, the bridge was less than 100 meters away from the opposite bank. This morning, the bridge was still the same as usual. Dasna led dozens of bridge builders from Xuanji to rush to work, while Li Chuan and Kakashi chatted to protect their safety. But at this moment, a short middle-aged man in a suit and holding a scepter walked over the bridge with hundreds of ninjas holding various weapons. He pointed at everyone including Dasna and Li Chuan in an arrogant tone. Did you think that the bridge was about to be repaired, that I was afraid of hiring a few ninjas from Konoha? Ha ha ha, I just want to wait for your hopes to be the greatest before trampling it down. I want everyone to know that resisting me, Kado, will never end well, and you will never escape my control. Quote. Looks like I can't take it anymore. Kakashi looked at Kado in front of him and the more than 100 wandering ninjas behind him. His face did not change at all, but turned his head and told Naruto, Sasuke and Sakura. Okay, now let's take a look at the results of your cultivation during this time. Ah, just the 3 of us. Mr. Kakashi, you won't help us. Sakura had a panicked look on her face. The more than 100 ninjas on the opposite side were all murderous, with a fierce look on their faces, and they were not easy to provoke. How could the 3 ninjas who had just graduated could beat them? However, as soon as her words fell, Sasuke had already rushed over with kunai. Naruto saw Sasuke rushing out, and he followed up as much as he was willing to show weakness. Sasuke, you're going to show off again, I won't lose to you this time. Sakura, believe in yourself. They are actually very weak. Li Chuan comforted her with a smile, and Xiaoying finally mustered up the courage to rush forward as well. The so-called wandering ninjas are different from those powerful rebels who can survive under the chasing troops of Ninja Village. They are just some ordinary people who have learned the chakra refining technique by chance. Many of them have never learned ninjutsu, they just use chakra to strengthen their bodies, and then fight with cold weapons. As for their strength, most of them are not even as good as the most common chunin, and even some top-notch ones are only as strong as ordinary chunin. As for Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura, although Sakura is Konoha's most common ninja, she is also a top student in school, and she is very talented in controlling chakra. If it is placed in an ordinary ninja village outside the 5 major villages, it is also a genius-level ninja. Not to mention Naruto and Sasuke, one does not count Kyuubi's chakra volume, and his own chakra volume is already more than 100 times that of Kakashi, the elite Jnin, and he is also proficient in multiple shadow clones, body skills not bad either. The other has Shanguyu Sharingan, who is proficient in fire ninjutsu and shuriken, and is the strongest genius in the same class. As soon as the 2 of them left the village, they already had the strength of some ninja village ninjas. Coupled with the training on chakra control these days, their strength is even better. It cannot be said that it is very easy for the 3 of them to fight these more than 100 wandering ninjas, but they definitely have a very high chance of winning. It seems that being a teacher is not easy, Mr. Kakashi. After the 3 of Sakura and those wandering ninjas meleeed together, Li Chuan smiled and said to Kakashi next to him, or Kakashi's shadow clone. It turned out that when Sasuke rushed out just now, Kakashi followed secretly at the same time, and what remained here was just a shadow clone. No way, the 3 subordinates are too cute, we can't let them have any accidents. Kakashi was a little surprised by Li Chuan's sensitivity, raised his forehead and smiled. In fact, he wasn't worried about those wandering ninjas. What he was really worried about was Zabuza, who was hiding in the dark, and the boy who rescued Zabuza. Now that Kaduo has brought people to show up, Zabuza and the boy hired by Kaduo must be nearby. Li Chuan smiled when he heard the words. He knew what Kakashi was thinking, and Zabuza and Bai were indeed hiding in the thick fog under the bridge now, but it was not to deal with them, but to kill Kado. Art Fire Escape Ho Fireball. Multiple Shadow Clone Technique. Quote. 5 minutes later, Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke stood there panting. In front of them were the wandering ninja who had fallen to the ground and Kado whose legs had already weakened from fright. Kaduo didn't expect that with so many subordinates he had spent money to support, he would be no match for the three brats on the opposite side. If I knew it earlier, I would have gone to the gold exchange to hire more rebels like Zabuza. You wait for me, I will not let you go. Kado let go of his harsh words angrily, then turned around and was about to run away. Seeing this, the three Naruto over there turned to look at Kakashi, as if they were waiting for Kakashi's instructions, but Kakashi just shook his head. Obviously, Kakashi didn't want to kill Kado here. The task they received was to protect Dazna, and Kado sent people to drive them away or kill him, but as long as Kado himself didn't attack them, it was difficult for them to kill Kado. Otherwise, it will definitely affect Konoha's reputation afterwards. If because of this incident, those rich and powerful people collectively dislike Konoha and stop coming to Konoha to issue tasks, it will greatly reduce Konoha's income. Of course, what they received was an assassination mission, so that's another story, but it is impossible for the major ninja villages to accept the assassination missions of rich people, daimyo and some important government officials. Most of that kind of missions only appear in the underground gold exchange. So normally in this world, a rich man like Kado would not be in any danger as long as he did not encounter some insane rebellion. Bah! Just as Kado's figure began to gradually disappear on the bridge, a very horrifying sound suddenly sounded. Then they saw Kado's head, which flew up from his body in an instant, drew an arc and landed under the bridge, and his body also fell to the ground with a bang. HMPH, just an ordinary person. Zabuza walked out of the mist with a beheading sword in his hand, and kicked Kaduo's headless body into the sea, followed by Bai wearing a mask. No more cuts. Seeing Zabuza appearing and stabbing Kado directly, Kakashi, Naruto and the others all showed disbelief in their eyes. What is this operation? Okay, Kakashi, don't hide anymore, I know you are nearby, and I don't intend to fight you this time. Without cutting his eyes, he glanced at the direction where a certain big rock was on the left of the three Naruto. Kakashi, the shadow clone next to Li Chuan, dissipated in an instant, and Kakashi, who was really hidden behind the big rock, appeared and protected the three Naruto behind. Why did you kill Kado? This guy took advantage of my injury last time and wanted to kill me without paying, so I had no choice but to take it myself. Bujin sneered again, and then looked at Kakashi who was full of caution. Don't worry, although I really want to fight with you again, I was fooled by your Sharingan illusion last time. However, if you kill this guy, the real chasing troops will come soon, I must keep strength. In that case, it's best. Kakashi also heaved a sigh of relief. He was sure that he could win the fight without killing him, but he was not sure that Li Chuan and Naruto, who had just experienced the battle, could beat the boy. So it is of course best not to fight. The main reason is that the rebellious ninja of Wuin village is not theirs, and it is not Konoha's. Why would he help other people in Ninja Village to eliminate the rebellious ninja? If it was not for the conspiracy of Wuin, Lin would not have died. To be honest, the two villages he hates the most, Wuin Village and Toying Village bear the brunt, one killed Lin and the other killed Obito. You are a good opponent, and I will have another showdown with you when I have a chance in the future. Leaving the last sentence, Zabuza disappeared in front of everyone with Bai. Kado is dead, and they won't cause trouble if they don't kill them. It seems that the people of the Kingdom of Waves will finally be able to live happily in the future. Sure enough, good will be rewarded with good, and evil will be rewarded with evil. It's not that there is no reward, the time is not yet arrived. After Zabuza left, Li Chuan came to Kakashi and the others with a smile on his face and said. The appearance of Zabuza and Bai was deliberately arranged by him. The purpose is to prevent people who are interested in connecting Kaduo's death and subsequent property embezzlement with his caravan. Otherwise, there is no need to kill Kaduo, he just kills Kaduo secretly. Now things are very clear, Rebel Nin no longer has a conflict with his employer Kaduo, kills Kaduo and takes a sum of money from him and escapes. Li Chuan's friend, the kind-hearted businessman Song Chuan, helped the country of Waves to build a bridge, and bought the legacy of Kaduo after his death, leading the people of the country of Waves to a better new life. Konoha ninja Kakashi and 3 genin, as well as the bridge builder Dazna can all testify. A week after Kado was killed, the bridge to the mainland from the Land of Waves was finally completed. Since then, the Land of Waves has never had any obstacles to trade with the cities and towns on the mainland. Goodbye, Big Brother Chuan. If you have time, you must come to Konoha to play. I invite you to eat ramen. It's super delicious. On the bridge, Naruto waved to Lee Chuan and shouted before leaving. The bridge is completed, and Kakashiban's mission is considered to be completely completed, so naturally he will return to Konoha. If you want to go to the capital next time, you can notify the little monk in advance, and the little monk will treat you well. Lee Chuan responded with a smile while holding the Zen staff. He has no plans to leave the country of Wave for the time being, because it is difficult to completely eat Kado's shipping company with Matsukawa alone, and he needs to take a secret action to remove some obstacles. But what he told Kakashi and the others was that Matsukawa planned to establish an orphanage in Nami country to adopt those poor orphans, and he wanted to stay and help. In fact, this is indeed one of the reasons why he stayed. After all, some basic chakra refining techniques and ninja knowledge still need him to take time to give to those orphans. Okay, hurry back to the village, and to celebrate the completion of the task, ask Mr. Iruka to treat me to ramen. On the way back, Naruto was obviously in a very good mood. And the same goes for Sakura over there. Well, Sasuke, shall we date when we return to the village? No, I refuse. Sasuke put his hands behind his forehead and replied without hesitation. After he went back, he would continue to practice harder and improve himself. After seeing such powerful ninjas as Kakashi, Zabuza and Chuan, he felt that he was far from revenge. Kakashi, who was walking beside them, looked at the three disciples with a face full of relief, and at the same time couldn't help but think of the ninja monk named Chuan. Based on his many years of experience, it seems that Chuan's identity is not as simple as the ninja monk of the Temple of Fire on the surface, and he is not as easy to fool as Sakura. From his observations during this period, he has already seen that Matsukawa is not Chuan's friend at all. The kind of humbleness that comes from the bottom of his heart after seeing Chuan, only a servant will have when he sees his master. However, he doesn't think Chuan is a bad person. Judging from what he does in all aspects, he is definitely a kind and good person, but there may be another layer of identity hidden. On the other hand, after Kakashi's 7th squad left, Lee Chuan took Zabuza and Shiro with him, and he also let go of his hands and feet to cooperate with Matsukawa to start the planned action. In less than 3 days, Kaduo's group completely disintegrated and was absorbed by Lee Chuan's caravan, including the girth and bones. Then, with the huge funds of the Kaduo group, they began to rebuild the cities and towns of Boland. The closed shops in the town were all recovered at high prices and reopened with the logo of Xuanji. A large amount of supplies were pulled from the bustling towns on the mainland by Lee Chuan's caravan, and then continuously transported into the Land of Waves. Those young and middle-aged people who had no jobs with signs hanging on the street were also recruited into Xuanji's caravans, shops and various construction sites under construction. Poor families have income, and they can buy all kinds of food and daily necessities in Xuanji's stores without going hungry, and the money spent goes back into Xuanji's pockets. The towns and cities in the country of Nami are changing every day because of the existence of Xuanji, and the lives of almost everyone are closely connected with Xuanji. The pale and emaciated children who didn't have families all lived in orphanages, fed and clothed warmly, and the teachers Lee Chuan invited from the mainland taught them basic culture and knowledge. More than a month later, there are still about 10 days before Lee Chuan returns to the main world. Water escape great waterfall technique. Lee Chuan made seals with his hands, and a huge stream of water gushed out, crushing Zabuza on the opposite side. Water escape great waterfall technique. Facing the range-based ninjutsu that covers a huge area, it is impossible to dodge. If you don't chop, you can only choose to offset it with the same ninjutsu. Thunder Tunnel, Earth Walk. Then Lee Chuan was already prepared, and he pressed his hands on the ground fiercely, and a force of thunder and lightning spread along the 2 streams of water that were stalemate to Zabuza on the other side. Ninjas with 5 attribute chakras are really hard to deal with. Buzan was numb from the electric current in the water, so he had no choice but to jump up and hide on the big tree without electricity. Fire escape the art of fireball. Wind escape flurry of air flow. With the blessing of the D-rank air flow flurry, The power of the C-rank Hao fireball reached that of the B-rank fire escape ninjutsu in an instant, so that Zabuza had to release the water dragon bullet again to counteract the damage. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Li Chuan was already close enough to not cut behind him, and attacked him with a big gun. And Zai Bi Yuzan, because his body was paralyzed by lightning before, and his movements were slow, he was picked off the tree by Li Chuan's big gun for a while. Finally, the numbness in his body disappeared, and he planned to go all out to chop off the opponent's long spear with the decapitating sword, but the long spear suddenly turned into a giant hammer again, and his hand was so numb that he almost couldn't hold the sword. Just like this, the two of you come and go, and if you don't cut them, you will always be at a disadvantage under Li Chuan's various attacks. Stop beating, beating is too aggrieved. After a while, he put away his sword again, and didn't want to continue to compete with Li Chuan. After killing Kaduo, Li Chuan hired him and Bai Gong at a high price of 200,000 taels a day. He is responsible for killing people and assisting Li Chuan in practicing ninjutsu and learning about actual combat. Bai is responsible for instructing the orphans in the orphanage to learn the most basic chakra refining technique and some ninjutsu that Li Chuan developed. Just in order to avoid Kurigakure's chasing troops and get money, he readily agreed. In the beginning, Li Chuan never won the duel with him, but this guy's talent is indeed terrifying, and he keeps improving in actual battles. Now not only relying on the 5-attribute chakra talent to suppress him in ninjutsu, but also the application of weapons in physical arts is superb, and there is also the disgusting ability to change weapons without knowing the principle. Now in the battle, it is basically difficult for him to gain the upper hand, and this is because Li Chuan has never used the special physical technique to defeat Bai. Thank you for the time. Tomorrow, I plan to return to the Land of Fire. Are you interested in visiting the capital of the Land of Fire? Li Chuan put the weapon into the mission space, feeling very happy. Before that, he trained alone in the Temple of Fire, and at most he would compete with Lulu, but he couldn't let go of that. This caused him to have a lot of experience and moves in his imagination, and he couldn't apply them in practice. But during these 50 days, because Zabuza, an experienced elite Jonin, served as a training partner, basically everything he has mastered so far has been effectively developed. Now his comprehensive strength can be said to be no worse than that of ordinary elite Jonin, the difference is the amount of chakra. Chapter 51. No, thanks to your help, now the Wuyin chasing troops don't know anything about Bai's and me's whereabouts. I plan to take this opportunity to sneak back to Wuyin village and verify the information you gave before. No more beheading and sticking the beheading sword on the ground, recovering the stamina just consumed. Because Li Chuan's people are everywhere in the Kingdom of Waves now, and most of the people work for Li Chuan, so after Kurigakure's chasing troops arrived in the Kingdom of Waves, they wanted to find clues that would not kill them. Without Li Chuan's nod, naturally impossible. The way ninjas collect information is actually not much different from ordinary people. They ask local residents and spend money to find information dealers. If things happen in a relatively short time, there are also some scout ninjas with special ninjutsu, who will track them according to the corresponding traces and ninjutsu. But on this point, Zabuza and Bai are very experienced, and have long since erased the traces left by themselves. Then follow the fleet. Matsukawa has initially established some shops in the country of water, which can help you hide your identities. Li Chuan nodded without objecting. At present, he doesn't need to help him with anything, and after verifying the information he gave, he can better understand the value of joining the organization he founded. After the two of them rested, they returned to the orphanage far away from the town. At this time, in the orphanage, Bai was wearing a pink kimono, and he was teaching the children who had regained their health how to better release ninjutsu with a gentle face. To be honest, I think he may be more suitable for this job than following you to kill people. Li Chuan looked at Bai Shang over there and said no more. Bujin was silent for a while before murmuring, "Not the right time yet." Li Chuan was not interested in intervening in the matter of Bujin and Bai, so he called Matsukawa to give a brief explanation, and then he set off to leave the country of Bo. 3 days later, he returned to the Temple of Fire, and asked Dalu more deeply for the secret ninjutsu of the two fire temple, Senshusha and Fudo Mingo, while waiting for the end of time to return to the main world. The role of Zabuza is to improve one's comprehensive ability through actual combat. If you want to learn more in-depth ninjutsu principles and knowledge, you still have to ask Lulu. For example, chakra attribute changes, detonator production, some ninjutsu warlocks and enchantment establishment, etc. If you don't use money to do things again, you won't teach him these things. Only the master, Lu, will impart all the knowledge to him without reservation. Don't look at him being able to suppress him with all his strength, but a large part of that is due to the experience of his previous life, the talent advantages of the 5 attributes, and the combined use of the task space. In terms of ninjutsu, he still has a lot to learn. And all the reservation plans for entering the small world this time have been completed, even overfulfilled, so they can be released temporarily. However, just the day before he quietly prepared to return to the main world, something unexpected happened. Your Highness, the daimyo just sent someone to inform you to come over in the afternoon. He has something to look for you. In the morning, Jinai hurried to the Temple of Fire to report to Li Chuan. Hearing Jinai's words, Li Chuan froze for a moment. Because in the memory given to him by the panel, except for special festivals, the general daimyo would not look for him. Speaking of his current identity, it is not a panel fiction, but a character that originally existed in the world of Naruto. Judging from the memory instilled in him by the panel when he first entered the small world, Yuan Chuan's life memories from childhood to adulthood are very detailed. However, the real Yuan Chuan died of illness before he entered. It is very obvious that the appearance of Yuan Chuan in the memory instilled in him by the panel is not his current appearance. Okay, I see, let me go and say hello to Master Lu first. Li Chuan nodded, and then went to Lu to explain the reason. When Lu heard that he was summoned by a daimyo, he didn't dare to neglect, so he hurriedly asked Li Chuan and Jinai to go back and prepare. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Li Chuan, who was wearing the clothes of a prince, met his nominal uncle in this world in the Daming Mansion. The daimyo looked about 50, with a fan with 3 fires drawn on his head, and a gentle smile appeared on his face when he saw Li Chuan. Agawa, I heard that you went to the Temple of Fire to learn ninjutsu. Yes, I have worshipped the abbot of the Temple of Fire as my teacher. Li Chuan replied in a respectful tone. The daimyo nodded. It's good. You used to stay at home every day and never go out. It's also a good thing to learn some ninjutsu and exercise your body. In his memory, since the death of his brother and siblings, this nephew has become silent. Staying at home all day without going out, and my health is getting worse and worse. He was really worried that one day he would not be like his deceased brother, who died early because of his poor health. The Yuan family lineage was not very prosperous. If this nephew passed away, there would be another member missing, and I would be sorry for his younger brother who died young. So he was very happy to hear that his nephew was finally willing to leave the house and learn ninjutsu. Thank you, uncle, for your concern. Li Chuan could feel that the daimyo seemed to have a good attitude towards him, so he relaxed. After chatting about homework for a while, and asking about Li Chuan's life in Huaji Temple and learning ninjutsu, the daimyo coughed, and then said solemnly. Xiao Chuan, since you have studied well in the Temple of Fire, it happens that uncle has a task for you. Uncle, tell me. Li Chuan's heart moved, but his expression remained calm. Daming picked up the tea at the table and took a sip, then slowly asked. When learning ninjutsu at the Temple of Fire, Ji-Lu should have told you about their ninja promotion. Master Di-Lu did indeed say that to advance to Chunin, a lower ninja needs to take the Chunin exam, and the Chunin exam is held twice a year by the ninja villages of the allied countries in turn. The promotion of Chunin to Special Jonin and Jonin promotion is determined by the senior management within the ninja village based on their tasks and abilities. Quote, although Huaji didn't participate in these, but Di-Lu trained Li Chuan as a personal disciple, and he would definitely tell Li Chuan all the common sense of the ninja world, so as to prevent him from traveling without knowing anything. The daimyo put down the cup in his hand. Most of what you said is correct, but the Chunin exam is not just as simple as a low ninja advancing to the Chunin, it is also an important occasion for countries to observe their national strength. You can roughly judge the overall strength of the ninja village through the strength of the latest generation of ninjas in each ninja village. 10 days later, that is, July 1st, this year's Chunin exam will officially begin, and the venue will be Konoha Hidden Village. At that time, the land of wind, the land of rain, the land of grass, the land of Taki, and the land of Tien will all be there. Send them ninjas from Ninja Village to participate. Likewise, their vassals and nobles will be there to watch the battle. So I hope that this time, you can replace me and lead the nobles from the land of fire to watch the battle. Quote. The daimyo will choose Li Chuan to watch the battle. One is that Li Chuan is a prince, the most honorable in terms of status besides him, so he can go there instead of him, so he can have time to deal with other government affairs. The second is that Li Chuan is also a ninja himself, and he knows some of the strength of ninjas better than laymen like them. After seeing the ninjas from Konoha, he can communicate better, and he can report clearly when he comes back. The third is that now that Li Chuan no longer stays at home, he also hopes that Li Chuan can get in touch with the nobles in the country and get to know the princes of other countries so that he can help him share some pressure in the future. Uncle, I will complete this mission well. Hearing what the daimyo said, Li Chuan thought for a while, then nodded and accepted the task. It happened that he was still thinking about entering next time, how to go to Konoha to take advantage of the chaos of the Chunin exams, and now that he has the righteous dispatch of the daimyo, many things will be easier to handle. Remember, when facing the princes and nobles of any other country, including the Kingdom of Wind, you can be stronger, and let them know that our Kingdom of Fire is the most powerful of the 5 major countries. However, when facing Hokage, you must pay attention to your words, do you understand? Quote. Finally, when Li Chuan was about to leave, the daimyo made a special request. Li Chuan naturally agreed. He actually understood very well that the power of the Fire Nation mainly lies in the strength of Konoha. To put it bluntly, if Konoha is gone, then the most powerful country of fire may not be long before being divided up by other countries. So although in name, the daimyo of the fire country and even his prince are higher than Hokage, but in fact the daimyo doesn't dare to impose any orders on Hokage. Similarly, Konoha would not be able to maintain its prosperity without the various resources provided by the Nation of Fire and without a large number of tasks from the Nation of Fire. The Kingdom of Fire and Konoha are not in the true sense of a superior subordinate relationship, but more like a cooperative relationship in which one prospers and the other loses. This is why the daimyo said that he can be stronger with the princes and nobles of other countries, including the country of the wind, which is also the 5 major countries, but he must give Hokage a certain amount of respect. The next day, Li Chuan was resting at home, waiting to return to the main world. His psychic beast Jianyao sent Matsukawa's report every day. Zai Bi Yuzan and Bai have successfully evacuated from Wuyin village, but they were seriously injured and are currently recuperating in the Kingdom of Waves. After reading all the information on the note, Li Chuan burned the note with a smile on his face. Now you should completely trust my information. It just so happens that you can call for help after your injuries are healed. Otherwise, there are so many strong people in the Chunin exam, and it's really difficult to operate. After lunch, the countdown on the panel ends. New York, Lee Group Building, Chairman's Office. Xiao Lu took 2 documents and walked to Li Chuan's desk. Boss, this is the information about Samuel Stern collected by the intelligence team. Okay, put it on the table. After Xiao Lu left the office, Li Chuan opened the document and read it carefully. Li's group is a biotechnology company, mainly engaged in the pharmaceutical business, so if they want to achieve a goal far beyond the Stark Group, they must naturally focus on bioscience research. If drugs that are truly beneficial to the human body can be developed, such as prolonging life, curing incurable diseases, improving physical functions, etc., then they will not earn less than Stark Group's technological products. For the truly rich people in the world, if they can live a few more years, even if they pay most of their wealth, they will definitely be willing. The poorer the person, the less afraid of death, and the richer the person, the less afraid of life. In the world of Marvel, there happen to be many particularly powerful biologists. Not to mention the dead ones, but the living Hulk Dr. Banner he has an impression of, and Dr. Banner's netizen Dr. Samuel Stern. And there is another one, Dr. Maya Hansen, who invented the extremis virus. However, Dr. Maya Hansen is obviously not in New York, and may have been mixed with Alderizi Killian now. With the intelligence capabilities of his current subordinates, it is estimated that Dr. Maya Hansen cannot be found. But Samuel Stern is easy to find, because he himself should be a professor at Grayburn College in New York. And finding Samuel Stern is equivalent to finding Dr. Banner. He was born with an ordinary talent, but he is very talented. He devotes himself to research and wants to win a Nobel Prize. Very good. I like such a scientist. After reading Stern's information, Li Chuan nodded in satisfaction. Where there is desire, there is demand, and only when there is demand can it be used. If there is no desire and no desire, then that is the most difficult person to deal with, but is there really a person who has no desire and no desire in this world? Xiao Lu, prepare the car, I'm going to Greyburn College. Pressing the communication button on the desk, Li Chuan gave instructions to Secretary Xiao Lu. 10 minutes later, 3 expensive black cars drove from the Li Group to Greyburn College, and the one in the middle was Li Chuan. It seems that the steel battle suit has finally been made. Li Chuan raised his brows when he read the news on the tablet about the Iron Man versus terrorists in the Galila area. It has been half a month since I returned to the main world, since the last time Tony brought Pepper to fulfill his promise. With the help of Stark Group's network and newly launched products, Li's group has firmly established itself in New York. If it's quick, maybe it won't take a year, and the main task of making Li's group a first-class company in New York can be completed at the very beginning. During this period of time, he also communicated with Tony a few times. Tony was tinkering with the machine in his laboratory, and he guessed that he was making the steel suit. Although the butterfly effect occurred because of his appearance, it did not affect the birth of Iron Man. It's just that there was no Iron Overlord, and after Tony returned, Obadiah Stani was sent to prison by Tony with the evidence given by Li Chuan. Boss, we're here. The car stopped at the gate of Greyburn College, and Xiao Lu turned to Li Chuan and said, "Well, you just stay in the car and wait for me." Li Chuan put down the tablet in his hand, opened the door and walked down. Xiao Liu and the escort team are all 5-year-old and 3-year-old, and they are usually brought by their side to prevent some people with ulterior motives from making trouble, but now they are going to university, so they are too conspicuous. What's more, Xiao Lu and all the guards are not his opponents. With his current strength, he doesn't really need any protection. According to the content shown in the information, Li Chuan soon came to the door of the classroom where Samuel Stern was in class. At this time, Professor Stern was on the podium, passionately explaining the key points of biological cytology. Li Chuan passed through the back door of the classroom with a teleportation technique, and appeared in a certain empty seat in the back row. Instantaneous body art does not refer to a specific ninjutsu, but as long as it can move quickly, it can be regulated as instant body art. Usually it is an instant burst of chakra in the body to make the body move at high speed, like before, after Bujin released the mist, moving at high speed in the mist to Kakashi's side as the mist instant body. The 3rd and 4th generations of Reikage cover the whole body with Lei Chuk and move at high speed, which is called Lei Shunshin, and the 2nd and 4th generations of Flying Thunder Gods can also be included in the range of the instantaneous body technique. The most famous of them is Uchiha Shisui's Phantom Instant Body separated by Sharingan. He also has the title of Instant Body Shisui. What Li Chuan used was the most common type of instant burst of chakra in the body, which can be used by most ninjas with good control over chakra. Okay, let's stop here today, get out of class is over. 10 minutes later, Dr. Stern checked the time, stopped explaining about cells, and prepared to leave the classroom with his teaching plan and return to his laboratory. At this time, Li Chuan also got up and walked towards the door. However, he hadn't taken a few steps when a blonde female college student with good looks and fashionable clothes blocked his way. "Hey, hello, my name is Lila, which department are you from? I don't think I've seen you before." Just when class was about to end, she took a look and found that a very attractive handsome guy was sitting on the seat in the last row of the classroom. Although he is of Chinese descent, his sharp-edged face is very three-dimensional. Coupled with his good-looking figure and expensive clothes, it gives people a sense of shock that the noble son of the kingdom is on the run. So at that moment, she decided to get rid of her current boyfriend, the captain of the football team, and take this man down. "I'm not from your school, I just came here to do something." Li Chuan looked at the girl who stretched out her hand in front of him, shook it politely, and then walked past her. He knows that most women in this country are more open and direct, so he is also more direct. Shaking hands is considered very polite. "It's okay, I have a party at my house tonight, do you have time to come? Hearing that Li Chuan is not a student of the school, Lila did not give up, and stepped forward with a smile to extend the invitation. It doesn't matter if he is a student in the school or not, such a boyfriend is very attractive wherever he goes. Li Chuan paused, then politely smiled at the female college student in front of him. Excuse me, I already have an appointment with my wife to visit Chinatown at night. Are you married? Lila looked at the handsome man in front of her who was not much older than herself, her eyes widened immediately and then she showed a look of disappointment. Then I wish you happiness. She really couldn't imagine that such an outstanding man would marry so early. Thanks. Nodding his head, Li Chuan continued to chase in the direction Dr. Stern left. However, as soon as he reached the door, the accident happened again, and he was stopped again. But this time it wasn't a female college student who wanted to pick him up, but a muscular male college student. Of course, it's not to tease him, but to warn him. Hey, little yellow monkey, I don't care which department you are from, stay away from Lila, he's not something you can touch, or I'll put your head in your ass. Boom. The white male college student was directly kicked on the stomach by Li Chuan, and then squatted on the ground in pain, clutching his stomach. In the way, leaving a word, without even looking at the college student, he left the classroom and caught up with Dr. Stern in front of him in a few strides. Excuse me, is this Dr. Samuel Stern? Who are you? Stern looked at Li Chuan. He thought he was a student at the school, but his clothes and temperament obviously didn't look like him. Li Chuan took out a business card from his pocket and handed it over. I'm the chairman of the Li Group. I want to talk to you about something. I wonder if you're free now, Doctor. Li Group, oh, I know, the 3-color pill is produced by your group. It is really a powerful invention. I have spent time analyzing it, and it contains it. Dr. Stern looked at the business card, his eyes lit up, and then he began to talk about a lot of technical terms, looking very excited. It took a while for him to react, and said with some embarrassment. Sorry, I'm getting excited, go to my lab, let's talk over there if we have anything to do. It's okay, I admire Dr. Stern's love for biological science, let's go. Li Chuan nodded very satisfied. His Li Group needs a professional and capable biologist like Stern. Unlike top universities such as New York University and Columbia University, Grayburn College can only be regarded as a second or third-tier university in New York City, let alone the world. So Dr. Stern, a not-so-famous professor of biology, is fortunate to have his own laboratory in this university. What can Mr. Li want from me? After arriving at the laboratory, Stern, who had calmed down, made Li Chuan a cup of coffee. At present, the chairman of Xinsheng Group, which is very popular in the pharmaceutical industry, came to the school to find him in person, which somewhat surprised him. Li Chuan didn't go around the bush either, but stated his purpose very directly. Dr. Stern, I'm not a person who likes to waste time, so I'll make it clear. I have read many papers you have published, and I agree with some of the theories you put forward. I think it is too wasteful to be a professor in this university with your talent. I want to hire you to join our Li Group. The salary is 10 times that of your professor. Quote. Let me think about it for you to say this suddenly. Hearing Li Chuan's words, Stern was a little confused all of a sudden. He didn't expect that Li Chuan asked him to quit his current job for more than 10 years and join the Li Group. To be honest, he didn't care about the 10 times the salary, but Li Chuan's appreciation and recognition for him moved him a little, which made him hesitate a little. In his heart, he doesn't feel that he is inferior to those top biological experts in the world, but because of some constraints, he has not made any achievements. Capitalists are very realistic. No matter how good your theory is, if you don't have certain experimental results and the ability to convert it into money immediately, capitalists will not be willing to spend a lot of money to invest in experiments. He himself was born ordinary, and without capitalists investing in experiments, many theories could not be transformed into reality. If he hadn't had his own laboratory in Grayburn College these years, he would have been unable to make any progress, so this was also the reason why he was a little moved. It's just that he hoped that Li Chuan would invest in his experiment, not join Li Chuan's group. Mr. Li, thank you for your appreciation of me. I'm used to staying here, and I don't plan to resign for the time being. In the end, Stern still rejected Li Chuan's invitation. Because he is currently in a critical period for an experiment, if he can make a breakthrough, he will inevitably attract a large number of wealthy capitalists to invest in him to conduct the experiment. It can even benefit mankind on the entire Earth, win the Nobel Prize, become the most famous and greatest biologist in the real world, and be remembered by history. Li Chuan was not surprised by Stern's refusal, because he knew the reason for Stern's refusal. It is mainly related to Dr. Banner. Bruce Banner, a genius doctor with 7 doctorates, participated in the Army Biochemical Force Enhancement Project, at the invitation of the U.S. General a few years ago. In fact, through some leftover Captain America's blood, I want to reproduce the super soldier serum from World War II. As a result, an accident occurred in the experiment, causing Dr. Banner to be irradiated by gamma rays and mutated into a more powerful and terrifying Hulk. In order to obtain the power of the Hulk, General Ross began to capture Dr. Banner around the world. Dr. Banner did not want the uncontrolled destructive power of the Hulk to be used in war, and started his escape journey. During the period, he met Dr. Stern, who was aliased as Mr. Lan, through the internet, and sent his blood to Stern to help him research a way to restore his body. Stern was amazed by the magic of Banner's blood, copied a large number of his blood, and planned to use Banner's magical blood to develop a magical medicine that could cure hundreds of incurable diseases, and thus became famous in one fell swoop and won the Nobel Prize. Dr. Stern, I know that you have some ideas because of the blood that Mr. Green gave you. But you may not know the origin of Mr. Green, and even if you really research the results, you probably won't be able to publish them. Li Chuan said with a smile. When Li Chuan mentioned Mr. Green, Stern's face suddenly changed. How do you know this? Mr. Green is the online name of the netizen who sent him blood, and he never told anyone. Li Chuan picked up a small spoon, and while stirring the coffee on the table, he explained. I have more friends, so I know more things. Let me briefly tell you about what you are studying now. Immediately afterwards, he unhurriedly described Dr. Banner's identity, current situation, and what might happen in the future. You mean, even if I really research something, I won't be able to publish it, and I might be confiscated by that General Ross, or even imprisoned as a whole. Stern's face was a little cloudy and uncertain. If the facts are as Li Chuan said, then the possibility of this is really very high given the pissing nature of his own country's government. Li Chuan nodded. Let me explain the conditions I offered in detail, and you should think about it carefully. First of all, I will fully support your research. Even if you haven't developed the so-called drug that can cure hundreds of incurable diseases in 5 or 10 years, I will still give you enough research funds and give you the best experiment equipment. At the same time, you can rest assured that after you have researched the results, you can publish them in your name to win the Nobel Prize. Regarding the troubles of General Ross, I will help you solve them. And there are many biologists as good as you over there, I believe they can also give you a lot of help. Quote, Stern can develop a cure for hundreds of incurable diseases, which will definitely bring huge benefits to the group, although it is very likely that it will touch the interests of many people. But so what, if you want to mess with him, he is not an individual but a group, with his own team of lawyers, and now he has friendship with Tony, it is difficult to move him under the general trend. He is even less afraid of the dark. With his current strength, if he doesn't care about the consequences, he can let the leader of this country go to the cemetery tomorrow. Without worrying about the consequences, ordinary people, even the most powerful, will die in front of capable people. But he won't do that, because it will cause all kinds of superheroes in this world to crusade, the gain will outweigh the loss, and he will become a public enemy. But if it is for the health of all mankind, for those terminally ill people to be cured, stand up to justice and fight against the capitalists and corrupt high-level government officials who are trying to stop them. Then there is no problem. I believe that as long as it is a superhero with justice in mind, it may take the initiative to help. It doesn't matter if Dr. Stern has been unable to produce results. He mainly values Stern's ability in biological sciences. Helping everyone to try to use Hulk's blood to make potions and other products that can improve physical fitness is also good, including many biological researches that can help. It can also abduct Dr. Banner himself, by the way. As for the experimental equipment and the investment in the experimental funds, whether there is Dr. Stern or not, he will invest in the highest standard. Hearing the conditions of Li Chuan's dismissal, Stern paced back and forth in the room for a while, and finally made a decision. Okay, if you can really do what you said, I promise to join your group. He also has no certainty that he will be able to research medicines to treat hundreds of incurable diseases, and Li Chuan's dismissal conditions are too good. Even if he really has results, those capitalists may not be able to offer better conditions than Li Chuan. The key is that he knows about Mr. Green, and can still find him, which means that he should really have the ability to resist General Ross. Welcome to Li's group. I will send someone to pick you up tomorrow, and all your current experimental samples will be properly transported to the new laboratory. Hearing Stern's reply, Li Chuan stood up smiling and shook hands with Stern. If Stern really didn't agree, he wouldn't force it, but he would definitely come over to take a copy of Hulk's blood sample and Stern's experimental data at night. In his current situation, relying on his own practice of chakra and changes in the nature of chakra, it is difficult to have a relatively large increase in strength in a short period of time. But getting a steady stream of potions like Super Soldier Serum and Hulk Transformation is another story. Now there are Dr. Stern and Dr. Ethan on the surface, and Dr. Smith and Dr. Lister in the dark. After getting Dr. Banner, it shouldn't be a big problem to get a stable potion that can improve the body's strength. After leaving Stern, Li Chuan thought secretly while walking on the campus of Greyburn College. Dr. Ethan lived in Tony for a few days, and after learning that Li Chuan sold the green life-saving pills that could have been sold at a high price, at the price of cabbage for almost no money, so that the poorest people in the world would not go hungry. After that, he decisively joined the Li group. The research team of the Li group is now divided into two lines, light and dark. The bright line is Dr. Ethan, Dr. Stern who is about to join, and some biologists he hired at a high price. Their main task is to research medicines that can make money and benefit mankind. And the dark line is Dr. Smith and Dr. Lister who kidnapped Hydra, and they can get all the research results of the bright line science team. Then, regardless of the cost, research out the most stable medicine that can enhance the strength and ability of the body, and give it to Li Chuan himself and his subordinates. Mingxian's future development is to recruit all kinds of kind-hearted genius biologists to create benefits for the company and let the whole world know that Li's group is a conscientious enterprise, and Li Chuan is a great kind person. The dark thread is doing everything possible. It wants to gather scientists from evil organizations like Hydra and other evil organizations to work for him, just to strengthen his own strength and survive in the main world and the small world better. This is the development direction of the Li group in the future Li Chuan plan. Thinking about future plans in his mind, he soon walked to the school gate. And at this time, the white male college student who was kicked and spit by him in the classroom before, led a group of classmates who were also burly and chased him from behind. It's that yellow-skinned monkey. Captain, don't worry, let him kneel down and apologize to you today. That guy in front, stop. Li Chuan, who was thinking, frowned, then turned to look at the dozen or so college students who ran over aggressively. What's the matter with you? HMPH, just now you kicked me in the classroom and made me lose face, now I want you to kneel down here and admit my mistake. The leading Caucasian college student gritted his teeth and growled as he looked at Li Chuan. Just after chasing the most beautiful flower in the department from someone else, she lost so much face in the classroom and was kicked on the ground for a long time before getting up. This makes him the captain of the rugby team, how dignified he is in school. It's you, you have to know that sometimes, face is something that you send up and lose by yourself. Li Chuan looked the white college student up and down, and then remembered that it was the one who was blocking the classroom door just now, and then shook his head. After hearing Li Chuan's words, the Caucasian college students became even more angry, and immediately took their own team members to beat Li Chuan at the school gate to relieve his anger. However, before he could make a move, 9 fierce-looking men in suits with a height of nearly 2 meters suddenly appeared behind Li Chuan. Especially the bald head of the leader, just looking at it gives people a strong sense of oppression that has killed dozens of people. In fact, each of these 9 people did have at least dozens of lives in their hands. Boss, do we need to deal with them? It turned out that it was Xiaoliu and the others who were sitting in the car. When they saw a dozen college students chasing Li Chuan, they immediately got out of the car and rushed towards Li Chuan. No, they're just kids. Li Chuan walked up to the white college student who was too scared to move, reached out and patted his face. Look, are you losing face again now? I'm in a good mood today, so you don't have to die, otherwise you and your classmates will be thrown into the sea to feed the fish. This world is more complicated than you imagined. In the future, we should keep a low profile so that we can live longer. Quote. After speaking, Li Chuan smiled, turned around and took Xiao Luju back to the car, and left Greyburn College. The white college student and his team members all sat down on the ground in fright. Just now when the bald head said whether to deal with them, they really felt like they were about to die. The key point was that they noticed that the other party had guns attached to their waists. In the evening, after get-off work, Li Chuan returned to his community as usual. Wanda, it looks like you have a new friend at home. Pushing open the door, he saw a beautiful woman in her 30s sitting on the sofa at home with a child. Li Chuan smiled and shouted to Wanda, who was busy in the oven in the kitchen. He has all the information of everyone in the community in his mind, and this beautiful woman with a child is obviously not a neighbor of their community. My dear, you are back. Let me introduce you. This is my friend Ms. May Parker from FEAST. That little cutie is his nephew Peter Parker. They live in the neighborhood next door to us. Quote, hello Ms. Parker, hello little Peter, I'm Li Chuan, Wanda's husband. Li Chuan was stunned for a moment when he heard the words, and then he took the initiative to say hello to May Parker and 8 or 9-year-old Peter Parker. FEAST is a charity organization that helps those who need help at the bottom of society. Wanda said before that Mrs. Martha next door invited her to join. At that time, he thought it was very good and agreed. After all, he was busy with company affairs and cultivation, so he basically had no time to accompany Wanda during the day, and Wanda had something to pass the time when he was bored. It's just that he didn't expect that this FEAST was actually the place where Spider-Man Aunt worked, and Spider-Man and his aunt lived in the neighborhood next door to them. The memory of the previous life is already a little blurred. He remembers many main events clearly, but he doesn't have much impression of some details. Hello, Mr. Li Chuan. May's personality is also relatively relaxed, and she immediately greeted Li Chuan enthusiastically when she saw Li Chuan. You guys talk, I'll go and look at my bread, don't burn it. Wanda briefly introduced the two of them, and then went to the kitchen to tinker with her bread. Li Chuan also naturally started some daily life with Mayla. Of course, he mainly wanted to know about Peter Parker's situation. Now Peter Parker has just turned 10 years old and is still in elementary school. He has never been bitten by a spider. He is a very smart and normal kid who prefers to play with some technological products. Why would he pay attention to Peter Parker Jr.? Because he was interested in the gene that made Peter mutate, and wanted to find out how Peter in this world mutated. He remembers the earliest Spider-Man because he was bitten by a genetically engineered spider. The Super Spider-Man Peter who came out later was his father who implanted the spider gene in his gene, and only Peter with his gene would mutate if he was bitten. As for this world, there seems to be no explanation for the reason. The appearance is that Peter, who has become Spider-Man, was dragged into the Civil War by Tony. Don't look at little Spider's performance in the movie as not particularly brilliant, it is because he is too young and has poor experience. In fact, his mutated physical strength combined with the spider's sensing ability, when fully utilized, few people can beat him. It can be seen from the fact that he can easily catch the Winter Soldier's mechanical arm with his bare hands to make the Winter Soldier doubt his life and catch the Black Dwarf's fist with his bare hands. It's just that he is still too young now, and it will take at least 6 years for him to be bitten and mutated. Then, pull yourself to this camp first. You seem to like little Peter. After May and Peter left, Wanda said while sitting on the sofa with Li Chuan's arms in his arms, watching TV. During the chat just now, she saw that Li Chuan asked a lot about little Peter. Oh, I just feel that the child is quite obedient. Li Chuan nodded. Through May's mouth, he knew that Peter's parents in this world seemed to be just ordinary employees, and there was nothing special about their death in a car accident. However, while everyone was not paying attention, he plucked out a hair of little Peter, and planned to give it to Dr. Smith and others for research. After all, if Peter's parents were not ordinary employees, May, an ordinary person, would not know. Then why don't we give birth to one ourselves? Wanda suddenly looked up at Li Chuan, which made him stunned. Is it a bit early? He doesn't hate children, but he's not strong enough at the moment, and there will be many crises in Marvel in the future. If he gave birth to a child now, it might become his weakness. In addition, the source of Wanda's ability is Sithorn, the god of black magic. He was afraid that if Wanda became pregnant, the child would be tampered with. It seems to be the same. Now I don't have the confidence to become a qualified mother. Hearing what Li Chuan said, Wanda thought about it for a while and didn't mention it again. She also felt that Li Chuan seemed to like children, so she couldn't help but mention it. But thinking about it carefully, with her current ability, being a mother is also very stressful. After all, she is only 20 years old this year. Unlike Wanda in the original book, she is close to 30, her closest brother is dead, and her lover is dead. Now Wanda is still young, she has resolved the hatred in her heart, and lives happily every day, so naturally she will not be so eager to have children. Hearing that Wanda didn't really want a child, Li Chuan was relieved. By the way, didn't you make an appointment to visit Chinatown? It's almost time to start now. In order to quickly change the subject, Li Chuan hastily said. Wanda checked the time, got up and trotted towards the room. Wait for me, I want to change clothes and put on makeup. For Wanda, going to Chinatown is definitely something worth looking forward to. Wanda, who was born in Sokovia, a small poor country in Eastern Europe, is different from a native New York resident. Today is also the first time for her to visit Chinatown. Go and send this hair back to the base for testing. While Wanda was putting on makeup and changing clothes, Li Chuan gave Lisan the hair he plucked from Peter. 20 minutes later, Wanda, with long hair and shawls, came out of the room in a red tracksuit. I wanted to wear a dress, but it feels better like this. Honey, what do you think of me wearing this? It's pretty, but it looks better with the hair up. Li Chuan looked him up and down and replied seriously. In fact, in his eyes, it is the same whether wearing a dress or sportswear, and there is not much difference between loose hair and coiled hair. It's just that he understands that if he has any hesitation at all, Wanda may think it's not good to wear sports clothes, and then go into the house for another 20 minutes. You can't just say yes directly, it will appear perfunctory, you must put forward some opinions, even if you don't know whether there are useful opinions. This is the wisdom of married men. Sure enough, after hearing Li Chuan's suggestion, Wanda looked in the mirror and nodded in agreement. Then he quickly tied up his hair and pulled Li Chuan out. While Li Chuan and Wanda were happily strolling through the bustling Chinatown at night, Tony, who was in a mansion in West Malibu, Los Angeles, welcomed an unexpected guest. Jarvis, turn on the lights. Tony took off his steel suit, walked from the top floor to the living room, and gave instructions to the smart butler of the mansion. Jarvis's magnetic voice sounded in the room. Yes, sir. In an instant, all the lights in the living room were turned on, and the room turned from darkness to light. Not all, at least there is a black guy who looks like a marinated egg on the sofa in the living room, sitting there quietly. Oh, who are you? Who allowed you to enter my house casually? Startled by the one-eyed stranger in front of him, Tony's tone was naturally not that good. And the bald black man obviously expected Tony's reaction, stood up from the sofa and introduced himself. Nick Fury, director of S.H.I.E.L.D., one of my agents should have looked for you before, but you refused to see him, so I had to do it. Sorry, don't say you are the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., you are the president. If you break into my room without permission, I can shoot you. Hearing Nick Fury say that he is the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., Tony's tone didn't get better, but worse. I've told my secretary to that Coulson that I'm not interested in your S.H.I.E.L.D., so don't bother me, even though you are an organization created by my irresponsible father. Because of Li Chuan, Tony didn't have a good impression of S.H.I.E.L.D. So when he returned to New York safely and a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent named Coulson approached him, he simply chose not to see him. Hearing Tony's answer, Nick Fury frowned suddenly. How do you know that S.H.I.E.L.D. was founded by your father? It feels like you know us very well. In his information, Tony should not know the relationship between Howard Stark and S.H.I.E.L.D. And from Tony's tone, he keenly judged that the other party seemed to think he knew them well. Tony shrugged. As the heir of the Stark group, I know these are not normal. Okay, let's not talk about that for now. I heard that you are wearing the armor you made yourself as a superhero all over the world. Are you interested in joining my Avengers plan? Seeing that Tony didn't say anything, Nick Fury knew that it was useless to continue to press, so he shifted to the topic and told the real purpose of coming here this time. What are you talking about? What superhero? Are you talking about me? How could I be a superhero? Tony's expression was innocent. Only Rhodes knew that he was Iron Man, and it hadn't been revealed yet. Nick Fury took out a tablet and pressed the open button. Inside was the picture of Tony wearing a steel suit, flying in and out from the top of the mansion these days. Seeing this, Tony secretly thought that it was exactly what Li Chuan said, and randomly waved his hands in disgust. Okay, I'm Iron Man, but I'm not interested in any of your Avengers plans. Please leave my house quickly, or I'll call the police. Seeing Tony's firm tone, Nick Fury instantly understood that something must have happened to Tony that he didn't know about, and then frowned. Think carefully before making a decision. Also, don't expose your identity to the public casually. It won't do you any good. We will also help you with some cover-ups. Hearing Nick Fury's tone like an order, Tony curled his lips, poured himself a glass of wine, and couldn't help replying with a 3-point sarcasm. Then I won't bother you. I already plan to hold a press conference tomorrow to officially reveal my identity as Iron Man. If you have the energy, hurry up and check your shield. I heard that most of the top executives in your organization have become agents of Hydra. Your shield can be changed to Snake and Shield immediately. Quote. After returning from the kidnapping incident, Tony Stark changed a lot. He realized the mistakes he and the Stark group had made, and he also had a strong sense of social responsibility. Especially later when he created the steel suit, and then wore the suit to personally deal with those terrorists, this sense of responsibility was magnified a lot. As the news is saying right now, Iron Man is a true superhero, and he thinks so himself. However, this does not mean that some of his personality and behavior habits have changed much. He also likes beautiful women, has a very vicious tongue, and likes to show off. So why does he think he should hide his identity as Iron Man? He is doing good deeds, but he is not committing crimes. The key is that he is Tony Stark. Who is he afraid of? Is he afraid of those incompetent high-level government officials? Of course not. Originally, he was still thinking about this matter, but after Nick Fury made such a move, he planned to hold a press conference to announce it tomorrow, just so willful. What did you say? Hearing Tony's words, Nick Fury's voice suddenly increased several degrees, and his expression instantly became serious. He wasn't surprised that Tony would hold a press conference tomorrow, because this was already expected in their analysis of Tony's character. It was just a matter of time. What he really cares about is what Tony said about the information that S.H.I.E.L.D. has been infiltrated by Hydra agents. But it's impossible. Hydra was destroyed as early as World War II, but according to the analysis of Tony's micro-expression characteristics, it is obviously not like a joke. I told you to get out of my house, get out, do you understand? Tony pointed at the door of the room, his tone already very impatient. Nick Fury gave him the same feeling as those high-level government officials he came into contact with. There is a kind of overbearing wanting to control everything and everyone, and he, Tony Stark, doesn't like this. About the high-level S.H.I.E.L.D. being infiltrated by Hydra, where did you know, Tony? This is related to the security of the entire planet. It is not a trivial matter. I hope you are not joking with me. It was about Hydra. How could Nick Fury just give up like this? In order not to disgust Tony, his tone became more amiable. Tony is also a person who takes soft things but not tough ones. He hesitated when he saw this and said, "That's the news I got. I don't know the details, but it's definitely not lying to you. You go back and check it yourself. That's it." After speaking, he made a gesture of repelling. This time, Nick Fury didn't say anything, but left Tony's mansion with a solemn expression. Washington, S.H.I.E.L.D. Headquarters, Trident Building, Director's Office. Nick Fury sat in his chair, looked at the information sorted out after a whole night, and couldn't help muttering. I didn't expect that there was a real problem. Regarding Tony Stark's words, 9 points in his heart do not believe it. If most of the high-level S.H.I.E.L.D. Then didn't he really become a character like a joke? But even if there is a little bit of belief, with his character, he must not let it go. So after rushing back to the headquarters overnight, he didn't notify anyone, and silently used his authority to conduct an in-depth analysis of the missions and information of the entire S.H.I.E.L.D. over the years. Either using computers and any high-tech products that might leave traces, or relying on the ability and intuition of his top-secret agent. He had to assume that more than half of the top executives of S.H.I.E.L.D. had been infiltrated by Hydra agents, and based on this premise, analyzed the data and found flaws. It can only be said that to be able to become the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury's ability as an agent is still strong enough. After a night of analysis, he really found out a lot of suspicious things. If it was normal, as the chief, these suspicious places would never come before his eyes. And even if he found out, if he didn't think of Hydra, he might just think it was some negligence in the handling of matters by some high-level officials. When did it start? How many people have betrayed? Who else can be trusted? Most importantly, how did Tony Stark know this news? Questions are running through Nick Fury's mind right now. After thinking about it for a while, he used the authority to retrieve the information again, but this time he retrieved all the information from before Tony was kidnapped to the present. Regarding Tony Stark, the son of S.H.I.E.L.D. creator Howard Stark, he has actually been paying attention. What he can be sure of is that Tony never knew the existence of S.H.I.E.L.D. before he was kidnapped. Then it can be inferred that during and after the kidnapping, he learned today's information from someone he contacted. After carefully reading all the travel records after Tony was kidnapped and returned, he soon found some clues. Lee Group, Lee Chuan, there is a problem. A company that just came from Sokovia has never cooperated with the Stark Group before. As soon as Tony came back from the kidnapping, he immediately visited the door in person, and immediately carried out in-depth cooperation, or unilateral strong support, which is totally unreasonable. And the Professor Ethan who escaped with Tony also joined this group. After finding out the doubt, he immediately used his bureau chief's authority to obtain all the information of Lee Chuan as quickly as possible. Because Lee Chuan is from Sokovia, a small country that is not well known in Eastern Europe, and is not the focus of attention, it is impossible for S.H.I.E.L.D. to have too detailed information on him. From the superficial information, this is a very caring and decent businessman who has done a lot of charity in Sokovia and is deeply loved by the local people in Sokovia. The medicines produced and sold are very effective and cheap. Oh, even S.H.I.E.L.D. has purchased a lot. After all, the effects of the 3 pills may come in handy during the missions of the agents. In this world, there can't be such a perfect person. The more perfect, the more problematic. Just from superficial information, Lee Chuan is undoubtedly a perfect businessman, and he is only 20 years old, but it is precisely because of this that he suspects that there is something wrong with Lee Chuan. Send Agent Natasha Romanoff to my office. After thinking about it, Nick Fury pressed the communication button on the table. If Hydra is really not destroyed, and the top management of S.H.I.E.L.D. has also been infiltrated, then the most important thing for him now is to stay still and not let the other party know that he already knows this information. Then use his most trusted subordinates to slowly arrange countermeasures. Similarly, he had to figure out who the source of the information was, whether it was unintentional or intentional, and whether it was an enemy or a friend who was conveying the news to him through Tony. Director, is there any mission? A beautiful woman in a tall black bodysuit and long burgundy wavy hair walked into Nick Fury's office. Natasha Romanoff, code-named Black Widow, was originally a brainwashed top spy in the Red House, and was later brought into S.H.I.E.L.D. by Hawkeye Patton of S.H.I.E.L.D. He has top fighting skills, is proficient in various languages, even Latin, a language that is about to disappear, and can skillfully drive various types of transportation by sea, land, and air. He is best at disguising, hiding, infiltrating, and lurking. With a profound attainment in psychology, a person can walk freely in various organizations in various countries to obtain the information he wants. You are allowed to use any means. I want all the information on this person, but don't let him find out. Nick Fury handed Lee Chuan's information to Black Widow. The Black Widow glanced at it and quickly memorized the content on the information, then nodded and left. After the Black Widow left, Nick Fury thought for a while, and pressed the communication button on the table again. Send Agent Hill and Agent Coulson to my office. Hill and Coulson are his 2 most trusted subordinates in S.H.I.E.L.D. He needs 2 people to assist him in investigating the infiltration of S.H.I.E.L.D's senior management by Hydra. After making arrangements for Hill and Coulson, Nick Fury heaved a sigh of relief and turned on the virtual projection in the office. It's also a hassle to deal with. Looking at the most explosive news on the projection, Tony Stark, the chairman of the Stark Group, blew himself up as Iron Man, and he couldn't help covering his forehead. At the same time, Lee Chuan, who was communicating with Samuel Stern in the company's laboratory, also saw the same news. I really like to show off. Shaking his head, he didn't care too much, and then continued to talk to Stern. Just tell him that you have almost mastered the cure for him now, and let him find a way to come to New York to find you. However, I'm still not sure whether the potion is effective. It may only be temporarily suppressed, and it may not be completely relieved. Moreover, the measurement is also uncertain. If you use too much, it may be highly toxic, and you may be directly poisoned to death. Dr. Stern frowned. He was not satisfied with the effect of the medicine at this stage. And Lee Chuan patted him on the shoulder to persuade him. Letting him come over doesn't mean that you need to inject your medicine right away. It's just that his body is here so that you can conduct research better, and he is also an expert in this field. Only by cooperating with you can you solve the problem faster. If it wasn't for worrying that Dr. Banner didn't trust him, he would have directly asked Stern to ask about Banner's location, and then sent someone over to fetch Dr. Banner. Now it's time to trick people over here, and then find a way to stabilize them and let them join the research team of Lee's group. Okay, then I'll contact him now. Stern thought for a while, and what Lee Chuan said was indeed reasonable. Although most of his current research results come from himself, there are also many key points that were discussed during the online chat with Mr. Liu. If Mr. Liu can come here, whether it is collecting blood samples or doing research together, he can complete the experimental results of his dreams more quickly. He copied a large number of Mr. Green's blood samples, but the replicas are replicas after all, and there is still a gap between them and the blood collected from the main body. After a while, Stern came to Lee Chuan again. He was very excited. Before I even invited him, he said he would come over. Then I put the meeting address at Greyburn College as you said. Stern is now an official employee of the Lee Group, but he has not completely resigned from the academy. In order to repay the appreciation given to him by the principal back then, he still takes 1 day a week to return to the college to give lectures. Lee Chuan nodded, then said with a smile. Very well, keep in touch, let Xiao Lu notify me whenever there is any situation. Also, I donated a new teaching building to Greyburn College in your name this morning, and the principal of your college should call you soon to thank you. Quote. It's really costing you too much. Hearing Lee Chuan's words, Dr. Stern was startled, with a moved expression on his face. He didn't expect Lee Chuan to value him so much, and actually donated a teaching building to Greyburn College for him. This feeling of being valued really moved him very much. Work hard. Even if Dr. Banner's blood research can't produce good results, it's totally worth it with your ability. Patting Dr. Stern on the shoulder, Lee Chuan left the laboratory. The donation of the teaching building to Greyburn College is to win the heart of Dr. Stern on the one hand, and on the other hand, he also wants to take over this college, which is not bad in biology, and provide biological education for the Lee Group for a long time. Talents in academic research. Not long after returning to the office, Lee Chuan received a call from Tony. Chuan, have you read the news? Tony's triumphant tone came from the other end of the phone. Lee Chuan smiled. Look, I didn't expect you to be the famous Iron Man. It's really beyond my expectation. Tony had been in contact with Lee Chuan before, but he never mentioned that he was making the steel suit, nor did he reveal that he was Iron Man. As for the reason, Lee Chuan also knew, so he didn't expose him. Haha, I'm scared. If you encounter any troubles in the future, just call me and I will definitely help you out. Tony replied confidently. When he was imprisoned by terrorists, Lee Chuan came over alone and killed all the terrorists, and even spit out flames and detonated missiles to blow up the terrorists' base. He still remembers that scene deeply. Now that he has manufactured a steel battle suit, he thinks that even the mighty Lee Chuan will never be his opponent. Very well, I just need your help with something. Come to my company if you are free. Hearing what Tony said, Lee Chuan responded unceremoniously. He'd been waiting days for Tony to reveal himself as Iron Man. Well then, wait for me, I'll fly over now. Tony froze for a moment, but still agreed. Li Chuan had saved his life, so he would never refuse a request as long as it did not violate morality and the law. By the way, Nick Fury from S.H.I.E.L.D. came to me last night, and I told him about Hydra, but I didn't say you said it. With Nick Fury's ability and the efficiency of S.H.I.E.L.D., it is estimated that I will be found soon. After hanging up Tony's phone call, Li Chuan thought to himself. Whether it's Tony's side or Dr. Banner who is about to get it, they are all part of Nick Fury's Avengers plan. It will be a matter of time before Li Chuan contacts them and gets noticed. In fact, there is no need to worry about anything, because since Nick Fury has already known the existence of Hydra through Tony, then for a long time to come, his energy may be devoted to fighting Hydra. Even if he sensed that something was wrong with Li Chuan, he didn't have the energy to mess with him, and he might even ask him for help later. As for some related investigations, that's fine. Check, Li's group is a real serious company in the United States. At most, the bodyguard team is richer, and it hasn't done anything illegal. Check it casually. Even if S.H.I.E.L.D. sends spies into the company, that's fine. All the experiments in the company's laboratories are formal, and Dr. Stern and Ethan are also researching drugs that benefit mankind. After a while, when the strength is stronger, you can ignore the Earth organizations such as S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra. There are new side quests, please go to the taskbar to check. Li Chuan, who was thinking about matters related to S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra, heard the mission reminder ringing in his ears, opened the panel naturally, and clicked on the side mission bar. Mission. Save Tony Stark. Tony Stark was poisoned by the palladium element because of his frequent use of the arc reactor for energy, and helped him get rid of the poisoning trouble. Reward. The Elder Wand. The Elder Wand. Is it the Elder Wand from the world of Harry Potter? What's the use of that thing if I want it? Seeing the task reward, Li Chuan was taken aback for a moment. He knew that the Elder Wand, one of the 3 Deathly Hallows in the Harry Potter world, was made of elderberry and the tail feathers of Thestrals, which could help wizards cast powerful and deadly magic more easily. However, he is not a wizard, nor does he have the blood of a wizard, so he can't cast magic. Holding the Elder Wand is better than holding a dagger. It's useless, at least for now. Forget it, it's a reward for nothing anyway. Li Chuan thought about it for a while, and then he was relieved, because even if he didn't do this side task, he could finish it in the end. According to the development of the original plot, after Tony is poisoned, Nick Fury will give the video left by Howard to Tony. Tony noticed from the video that his father had left the synthesis method of new elements in the model in his office, but it was impossible to make it due to the technology at the time. Then he made a new element that could replace the palladium element, completely solving the poisoning problem of using the arc reactor. You see, Li Chuan doesn't need to do anything at all, this task can be completed. Just right, I can use this opportunity to ask Tony to help me complete the plan, otherwise he really might not agree. Turning off the panel, Li Chuan practiced chakra extraction with his eyes closed while waiting for Tony's arrival. However, will things really develop as the original plot does? He still underestimated the series of butterfly effects that his butterfly appeared in this world. Washington, S.H.I.E.L.D. Headquarters, Trident Building, former director, now the office of the Minister of the World Security Council. Alexander Pierce told the bald agent in front of him. Sitwell, Nick Fury is getting suspicious. How is it possible? We have been hiding so well, and now most of the S.H.I.E.L.D. is already our people, all the information he knows is provided by us. A look of surprise appeared on Sitwell's face. He is the main person in charge of recruiting new agents within S.H.I.E.L.D. Whether it is a special recruit from the outside or an agent who graduated from S.H.I.E.L.D. Academy, every agent's information will be in his hands first. According to the content of the information, he can screen out which agents are likely to be recruited to Hydra, and then become an agent of Hydra before they enter S.H.I.E.L.D. Including many high-level members of S.H.I.E.L.D., if their ideological awareness is not high, they will be attracted by him with various interests and temptations, and become agents of Hydra. Like that John Garrett who nearly died from a mission injury. Therefore, most of the information that Nick Fury can see is the information they let Nick Fury see, and of course there will be no information related to Hydra in this information. But as long as those real S.H.I.E.L.D. agents detect doubts during the mission, the information they reported will be cleared before it reaches Nick Fury, and those agents will also be sacrificed in the next mission. Under the circumstances, he really couldn't figure out how Nick Fury could be suspicious. Let's not worry about that. He's not a simple person. Even though S.H.I.E.L.D. is mostly our people these years, he still secretly created a lot of secret bases that we don't know yet. I will send someone to deal with him, you prepare, and then I will let you take his place. Quote. Pierce waved his hand and ordered. Sitwell hesitated for a moment. He just doubts whether it is too early to deal with him now. There are still many imperfections in the Insight plan. I can't wait. I know him very well. As long as there is doubt, it will be very troublesome. Get rid of him first, and then continue to improve the Insight plan after you become the director. Pierce's tone was very firm. Obviously he still recognized Nick Fury's ability in his heart. If he didn't really recognize Nick Fury's ability, he would not choose Nick Fury, a non-Hydra employee, to take up such an important position as the director when he left office. In fact, he felt that his move was very good. It is precisely because Nick Fury's ability is so strong that S.H.I.E.L.D., which was not very prominent back then, has become such a global behemoth now. At the same time, it indirectly drove the development of the entire Hydra, and also allowed the Insight project to come to this point. To be honest, it was impossible for him, or any member of Hydra, to make S.H.I.E.L.D. so brilliant in the position of director. But at the same time, he was also very afraid of Nick Fury in his heart, after using his secretly left authority to observe Nick Fury's abnormal behavior last night. Even if you only suspect that the other party may notice something, you immediately make up your mind to deal with it. Understood. Sitwell nodded and exited the office. After Sitwell left, Pierce immediately opened a secret communicator and said, Activate the Winter Soldier. Quest, kill Nick Fury. Clang, clang, clang. A crisp sound of glass being knocked awakened Lee Chuan from his practice. Turning his head and looking back, it was Tony wearing a gold and red steel suit, floating in midair and knocking on the big glass behind him. Why don't you come in through the front door? Lee Chuan opened the window and let Tony get into the office through the window. Tony took off the helmet on his steel suit and put it on the table, and raised his hand helplessly. I can't help it. Since the press conference was held in the morning, there are reports about me everywhere now. If I enter through the main entrance, I will probably be surrounded by everyone before I reach your place. Then before long, a large number of reporters will rush into your building, which will bring you a lot of unnecessary trouble. Quote. Well, actually, I think that's pretty good. It's equivalent to giving our group a wave of free advertisements. Lee Chuan poured a glass of water and handed it to Tony. Tony reached for the water. Thank you. If you want to advertise, you can go to Miss Potts. She will introduce you to many channels. By the way, do you need any specific help from me? Quote. Miss Potts has introduced many channels for us, and it has indeed helped us to further increase the sales of our products, but that is not enough. I need some help from yourself, Tony. Quote. Lee Chuan sat back in his seat and looked at Tony. Although the 3-color pills of Lee's group are now sold all over the world, except for Sokovia and New York, which has just entered the market, sales are not so good in other countries. The main reason is that many people simply don't know how effective this product is. However, the current Lee group is still unable to do so. It has invested a lot of money in the promotion of every country. In addition, companies in the same industry in other countries will also jointly suppress and slander the products of Lee's company. This has led to many people who have never bought Dolly pills at all, and do not believe that it has such powerful effects, let alone the 2 new pills launched later. But now, because of the cheap price of the green Baoming pill and the immediate effect, it has improved, and it will not take a few years. Even in other countries, even if there is pressure from the same industry, it will be difficult to suppress it. But Lee Chuan can't wait for a few years. He wants to make the group's 3-color pills popular all over the world now, accumulate wealth as quickly as possible, and complete the main task. So he set his mind on Tony. Me. This kind of thing is handled by Miss Potts. She must be better than me. If you need to improve the machines produced, I can think of a way. Tony shook his head, looking helpless. He is a genius inventor, but not a qualified businessman. He used to spend most of his time making inventions in the laboratory and attending various parties. Make an evening or two of friendship with beauties you meet at the party, from journalists to celebrities to models. As for the sales and promotion of the company's products and a series of miscellaneous matters, they are basically handled by Obadiah, and now they are all handed over to the female secretary, Miss Potts. No, you can help, a great deal. As long as you are willing to speak for our company's 3-color pills, you are willing to put a few slogans for our products on some not so important places on your shirt. Then it can play a very important role in the promotion of our products. Quote. Li Chuan smiled. The product endorsed by Iron Man himself, who would not believe its effect, but as long as he takes it a few times, he believes that the effect of the 3-color pill can conquer everyone. In this way, the sales of the 3-color pills will skyrocket, not to mention that it can far surpass the Stark Group at its peak. At least it is not a big problem to reach the minimum standard for opening a new world. Tony looked at Li Chuan with an incredulous expression. Chuan, I think you must be joking with me, right? You know, I can't do this kind of thing on the Mark armor. It's really embarrassing. When he came to Li Chuan, he wanted to show off to Li Chuan the Mark suit he created, but he didn't expect Li Chuan to use his suit to advertise. God, it really made him feel like he was in a den of thieves. Of course I'm not joking. Really, you have taken our group's 3-color pill yourself. Is its effect as good as advertised? Li Chuan said with a serious expression. Tony thought for a while and nodded helplessly. It's so good, but it's not about the product effect, but about. Before he finished speaking, he was interrupted by Li Chuan. I know what you want to say, but Tony, you should know. If the 3-color pills can be sold in various countries around the world, especially the green pill, how many poor people's lives will be improved, and how many people who would otherwise starve to death can live on. You are doing a very meaningful thing, just as meaningful as you decided to close the Stark Group's arsenal before. Quote. After listening to Li Chuan's words, Tony's expression became tangled. Yes, what Li Chuan said is correct. When he flew to those small countries to fight terrorists in his combat uniform, he also saw many poor people sallow and emaciated from hunger. That kind of green pill is cheap and nutritious. If it is popularized all over the world, it will really be a blessing for the poor. However, he just felt that something was wrong. The key was to advertise on his steel battle suit, and he wanted him to be the spokesperson of the 3-color pill. This was indeed hard for him to accept. No, Chuan, I still can't accept it. In this way, after I go back, I will pay and let Miss Potts put a lot of advertisements on you. Oh, this is really a good idea. I think there is still a very important thing to deal with, so let's start gone. Tony got up to get the helmet he had just put on the table, trying to get away quickly. Li Chuan saved his life, and he even praised Haku before coming here, which is not illegal, criminal or immoral. Now he refused, and to be honest, he still felt a little guilty. Wait a minute, don't worry, it's not that I don't want to give you a reward when I ask you for help, you can listen to my reward before deciding. Li Chuan stretched out his hand and took the helmet over first. Seeing this, Tony said to Li Chuan, Chuan, I don't think you need to listen. I really can't help you with this job. Next time you have something to do, I will definitely help you, and I will definitely not ask for any compensation. Li Chuan smiled and sat back on the chair without panic, just asked Tony. Tony, have you been feeling unwell recently? Uncomfortable? Why? I feel pretty good recently, and I have spent a lot of time practicing some fighting skills. Even Potts said that my figure has improved a lot. Tony was visibly taken aback. Li Chuan shook his head. No, you are poisoned. I saw something wrong with your body that day in the desert, and now I can fully confirm that you are poisoned, and it is still very poisonous. Maybe it won't be long before you die from the poison. Quote, I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.